Against loose cultivators above me I can manage, and disciples of a great sect like the Sonon sword sect are overwhelming even one stage up. Fighting above my rank is close to impossible. Heal first, I decide, and once this business is behind me I can cultivate properly. Then I sit down again, already impatient for what comes next. The next morning Ju Han Jung brings the enforcement hall to the door again. Peng Supo asks what they are here for, frowning. We are only asking junior brother Jin to cooperate with something, Ju Han Jung says, smiling, and assures him there is no need to go anywhere else and it can be done right here. How am I supposed to cooperate, I ask, stepping forward. There is no need to be nervous, he says, still smiling, and takes a branch the length of a little finger out of his robes. Peng Supo's brows twitch at the sight and he does not stop him. The branch looks familiar to me, and before I can place why, the Nuan bead in my robes shivers and flies out. I catch it out of the air on reflex and discover the pull is coming from that branch. A branch off that spirit tree. And now I know where the familiarity came from, because it plainly shares an origin with the bead. What I did not expect is that a Nawan bead has a back door like this, answering the parent tree's branch. A Nawan bead, Ju Han Jung says, excited, his gaze nailed to me, and demands that I explain where it came from, while the others draw their swords and angle them vaguely toward me. I gave him that bead, says Peng Supo's calm voice, and asks whether there is a problem. Jo Han Jung sneers at Junior Marshal Uncle Peng, and says he already gave his Nawan bead to Guak Rimson, so where would he find another for Jin B? Peng Supo asks whether the man did not go to the Sonon sword sect and ask properly before coming here. Then he shakes his head slightly and says he exchanged for a new one recently, and invites the man to go and ask them if he doubts it. Jo Han Jung's mouth opens with nothing to put in it. A lie like that collapses the moment anyone checks it would be pointless. Which means the bead really was given to me by Peng Supo and is not Shim Jung Gyeon's. Unwilling, he pushes spiritual power into the branch and feels for movement around him. Sharing an origin makes that connection hard to block, especially at close range, and a second Nawan bead nearby would answer no matter how deeply it was hidden. There is no second bead, only the one struggling in my hand. Let us go, he says, and bows to Peng Supo, having no face left to stay, his cheeks still stinging. Go back, Peng Supo says with a sigh, the helplessness written across his face, and says we will know how this turns out within 2 days. I nod and follow him. As we walk into the courtyard, I tell my master quietly that I have cultivated the 4th level of the Tonwan technique to perfection. He looks at me in surprise. It has only been a few days. The 3rd level took a few days, and now the 4th also takes a few days, and he half wonders whether technique training has a speed up hidden in it somewhere. That day in the restaurant, I say, in a days I found the 4th level nearly at perfection, and I recount it. That sounds like an epiphany, he says, and adds that with nobody disturbing me, the gains would have been greater still. He thinks of Shim Jungin immediately and gets angrier, because everything traces back to that Sonon sword sect disciple, and it is good that the man has gone missing. Then he says he will pass on the 5th level of the Tomwan technique, and tells me to cultivate well and not be shaken by the outside world. Everything else is false, and my own strength will neither deceive me nor abandon me. I tell him I understand. 2 hours later, he has explained the 5th level completely, covering not just the technique but the small tricks of circulating it in real detail. I stand and bow seriously and thank my master for the teaching. Cultivate well, he says gravely, and come ask him any time something is unclear. We speak a few more words and I go back to my room. What I need most now is to finish healing, and because of the 4th level, injuries that should have taken days will likely close inside too. The only thing still on my mind is Shim Jungin, and when this can actually end. The next day is quiet. At noon on the 3rd day, O Guanjin arrives at the courtyard. Peng Supo, surprised, asks Elder O why he has come. I bow beside him. Oh, Guanjin looks at me and says I do not have to go to the Sonin sword sect, and that for the next while he is afraid I cannot stay in the sect either. Then he sighs. I stop where I am, because that does not sound like expulsion. What does the sect intend? Peng Supo asks, frowning. The sect plans to send Jin B to the ghost realm, O Guanjin says quietly. They are short of manpower there, and it happens to let me avoid the worst of the attention. The sect is sending a bone-forging realm martial artist into a ghost realm, Peng Supo says, his emotions rising sharply. Are they trying to kill him? O Guangjin sighs and says we must give the Sonon sword sect an explanation, and that this is already the best result. If anyone is to blame, it is us for still being too weak, since we have to consider their mood. Peng Supo's agitation drains out of him. The weak accommodate the feelings of the strong. When do I leave? I ask. 10 days. O Guangjin says, and looking at me he finds me very calm, and appreciation flickers through his eyes. I must depart within 10 days, and before that I can prepare. After he goes I ask my master what kind of place the Wind Ghost realm is. since the way he reacted makes it sound extreme. It is a ghost realm the sect discovered recently, he says. A great many of the anomalies inside have been cleared, and many remain, and the disciples sent there are tasked mainly with eliminating what is left. He looks at me with something like shame, because being unable to protect his own disciple is genuinely painful for him. My brow tightens, because a place where a mass of anomalies gather sounds like somewhere to stay away from, not somewhere to go. A ghost realm is a very peculiar place, he explains, seeing my face. The environment inside is nothing like the outside world, and the origin chi especially is far denser, so a great many treasures useful to martial artists are born there, particularly for the spirit refining realm. To refine apertures, a man must first refine the spirit, and spiritual power is the most fundamental thing. A ghost realm is where such things are found, which makes every one of them a treasure vault for a sect. Will other sects not come and fight over it? I ask, since the word treasure makes me think of exactly that. That used to happen long ago, and is very rare now, he says, shaking his head. Because agreements were made then, or we would never have lived in peace this long. And the Wind Ghost realm is not large, and what it produces is limited, so no other sect would drop all pretenses over it. I nod, understanding him, which means that if the value were high enough, those agreements would mean nothing at all. Small as it is, that is small relative to the sect, he says, and for me it is still dangerous, because my cultivation is too weak. He sighs, takes a manual off the shelf, and sets it in front of me. The cover reads Bramble Sword. I look up at him, surprised, because I know this one from the Scripture Pavilion, where it costs 3,000 contribution points. Do not worry about the points, he says with a soft laugh. He will go and make up the amount later. With my comprehension, I should have all but finished learning the Starry Night Sword, and the Bramble Sword comes from the same lineage. It is still a defensive style, and every time it blocks an attack, it reflects a portion of the force back like a driven thorn. I take it gladly and thank him, because the description caught me the first time I read it. The Starry Night Sword's defense is genuinely strong, and its defense is more than sufficient while its offense is badly lacking, and the Bramble Sword covers exactly that hole. Still defensive, and every successful defense turning into a sharp counter. The catch is that the Bramble Sword is difficult to cultivate, which makes it unfriendly to most disciples, and learning it properly requires the Starry Night Sword first, which is where most of them give up. In my view, its true value is at least 4,000 contribution points and arguably 5. Guak Rimsan's voice comes from outside requesting an audience with his master, and he is told to come in. He hurries in, greets us both, and says anxiously that he has just seen the announcement, and that his junior brother is on the roster going to the Wind Ghost realm. The announcement went up that fast, Pung Supo says, snorting coldly. That announcement exists purely for the Sonon Sword sect's benefit, and specifically to give Han Wanbom a way out. Look, we threw Jin Bi straight into a ghost realm, and being only bone forging realm, he likely will not be coming back. Guak Rimsan says his junior brother's cultivation is too low, and asks to be added to the list so that he can go as well. He understood the sect's intent the moment he read the announcement, and said nothing else and simply decided to come along so we could watch each other's backs. The sect will not let him go, Pung Supo says, shaking his head, because he is a seed for the true inheritance. Guak Rimsan opens his mouth and in the end can only sigh. Senior brother Guak, it is fine, I tell him, and clap his shoulder. He saw the news and ran straight over to say he would come. That moves me. Only a real brother does that. Pung Supo turns to me heavily and tells me to name anything else I need, and to remember that survival is the priority on this trip. I hesitate, slightly embarrassed, and ask my master whether he has any money. By my original plan, with Biryong pill proficiency climbing and the Jiangbu pill profits running uninterrupted, my savings rate was genuinely fast. I've been spending heavily lately, and inside a month I would certainly have banked 50,000 won to simplify and learn the dragon suppressing image I have been wanting. Now this has happened and I go to the Wind Ghost realm in 10 days, and there is no time left to save slowly. More than half the anomalies in that realm are cleared, and it is bound to be dangerous, where the sect would not imagine the Sonon Sword sect satisfied by such an explanation. That means safety first, and the mysterious dragon suppressing image is a major guarantee of it. He asks how much I need, briefly thrown, not expecting a loan request. 50,000 won, I say, throwing up my hands slightly. Wait a moment, he says, and leaves the study. Guak Rimsan looks at me. When I mentioned borrowing, he had wanted to say he has some and could lend it, and hearing the amount, he is suddenly very glad he did not interject. 50,000 won straight off the mark. His own silver goes almost entirely into medicinal pills, and he keeps a little spare cash. Not even pocket change against a number like that. Pung Supo comes back and sets a stack of silver notes in front of me. There is 100,000 won there, he says, smiling, and I should use it and tell him if it is not enough. I do not need that much, I tell him, a little shaken by the scale of him. That is what a former power of the spirit refining realm looks like, and I carefully pull out a portion of the notes. 50,000 is enough. These notes are private silver issued by the Chambers of Commerce in Seonan City, backed by the Seonan Sword Sect, so their credit is thoroughly guaranteed. And most of what I hold is this kind. Seeing that I genuinely do not want more, he nods and takes the rest back. Junior brother, Guak Rimson says, patting his chest. Some of the people going to the Windows realm are men he knows, and he will have a word with them so I can join their team. I thank senior brother and master both, and bow deeply to them. Two people genuinely considering my well-being. How fortunate I am. An hour later, disguised and with my appearance entirely changed, I am in Seonan City. I exchange 50,000 won at a Chamber of Commerce, take a carriage, and arrive in front of a courtyard I rented. In the end, I followed my instinct and rented a second small courtyard outside the sect, and now it earns its keep. Under cover of night, several figures appear outside that courtyard with their eyes fixed darkly on it. One asks whether the person has left all day. Another says they have been watching and nobody left, and that a full 50,000 won is worth moving on. A third asks whether the identity was found. Time was too tight, comes the answer. Then one of them says to do it, and they go. The group rushes the courtyard and kicks the door in and immediately sees the chests used for holding silver standing in the middle of an otherwise empty room. They look around carefully, find no traps and nothing out of place, move slowly for half a quarter of an hour, finally reach the chests, and open them with care. Instead of the expected glitter, the chests are completely empty. They stand there stunned, then tear the others open, and there is nothing in any of them. They ask where the silver is. They ask each other how the money left when nobody did. They ask whether there is a secret passage and whether it went out that way. Then somebody tells them to search and turn everything over. Their eyes go red with desperation as they ransack the whole courtyard, and an hour of it turns up nothing. Then one asks why his head feels dizzy. Another says the same. A third realizes the room is poisoned and says they have been in here too long, and tells everyone to leave quickly. They stagger for the door and drop to the floor a few steps later. A few miles away, I sit upright in another courtyard and open my eyes slowly. My injuries have finally closed completely, and I can cultivate properly at last. Breaking into marrow refining realm inside 10 days is unrealistic. What I can do is push the bramble sword as close to great perfection as possible, and above all take the dragon suppressing image. I look at the panel. It offers to simplify the dragon suppressing image for 50,000 won of silver. I confirm it, and the simplification runs. And it succeeds, and the dragon suppressing image resolves into a single instruction, which is to immerse my entire body in boiling water. I blink at that. Immerse in boiling water, and it specifies the entire body. This is the first time a simplification has handed me a requirement. This concrete boiling water generally means water at a full boil, which in my previous life meant 100 degrees on the plains. And going by what I have seen in this world, the temperature will not be low here either. I am a martial artist now, and my physical condition beats an ordinary man's in every direction. And putting a person, especially all of a person, into boiling water is not something anyone sustains for long. I remember a form of execution where a man was boiled in water. However tough he is, nobody withstands that. It is extremely cruel. So I am supposed to torture myself. I sit with that, bewildered, and then inspiration crosses my mind, because a hot spring gushing up out of the ground could also be read, to a degree, as boiling water. I have no intention of boiling myself, and I remember that Seonan City happens to have hot springs. 2,001 of silver goes into the panel, and the bramble sword simplifies into the starry night sword, and I start grinding at the same hour. Sleep is not on the schedule tonight. Early the next morning, I walk into an inn in Seonan City that advertises hot spring service. The attendant leads me into a small courtyard and tells me proudly that this is their hot spring, that it drives out fatigue and refreshes the mind. I look at the shallow basin steaming there and shake my head and ask instead for a flowing pool, because this one will not do what I need. He nods without arguing and takes me to a heaven-grade room, and one glance tells me the price here climbs by a considerable margin. He points at the pool in front of us and asks, smiling, whether this one is acceptable. It surges, rolling up out of the rock and turning over on itself, with heat coming off the surface in a sheet. I tell him I will book it for a day and try it out, count out the silver and wave him off. Close off, 1 foot in, then the rest of me, and then my whole head goes under. Dragon suppressing image experience, +1. The number moves, and insight opens in my mind all at once, and a smile gets away from me. The hot spring qualifies, so I do not have to boil myself after all. I will admit that if there had been no other road, I would have gritted my teeth and climbed into a pot. The dragon suppressing image had been a book written in a language I could not read. Now it unfolds. It turns out that what I bought is only a piece of a cultivation technique, and that genuinely startles me. The simplification cost a full 50,000 won, and every other technique I have simplified recently, added together, does not reach that figure. If I ever get my hands on the whole thing, I do not want to imagine what the panel would charge me. I stay under, quiet, while the number climbs and the methods come. The complete dragon-suppressing image runs in 3 stages: body suppression, spirit suppression, and soul suppression. And what I hold is the first of them. As the experience rises, my body begins to tighten all over, and the internal strength inside me is dragged out of its channels and swallowed by every part of me at once. I come out of the water with a sound I did not plan to make. My face has gone pale, and it is not the heat. It is the internal strength, and then the chi and blood behind it, being pulled out of me in the space of a few breaths. This is a technique for the spirit-refining realm, and a body-tempering martial artist who tried to cultivate it seriously would be drained dry before he had anything to show for it. I breathe for a while. A faint itch crawls under my skin, everywhere, like the feeling of a limb waking up. The effect is obvious enough that I want to keep going, and dangerous enough that I sit there arguing with myself about it. I am not in the spirit-refining realm, but because of the Neiwan bead, I can already draw in origin chi, and after killing Xinjiangyan, I have 2 of the beads instead of 1. That origin chi was earmarked for internal strength and for pushing my realm forward, and if I hand it to the dragon-suppressing image instead, my realm pays for it. The martial Tao realm is the floor everything else stands on, and I have felt that floor sag, because my movement technique and my sword forms are both throttled by hardware that cannot keep up with them. Break into marrow refining, or further, into organ refining, and even with the same techniques my strength jumps by a stride I can measure. If I had been in marrow refining that day, I would have been faster than Shim Jungyan, and I would have shaken him long before the fight got ugly, and even standing to fight I would not have been so thoroughly on the back foot. With the Starry Night sword shield in hand, I could not promise a win. I could promise I would not lose. The panel says body suppression. Entry, 3 out of 500. 3. After all of that, cultivating any further today is not sensible, and unless I feed it origin chi, my body will simply come apart. That leaves me with the real problem. In the 10 days I have left, I cannot reach the marrow refining realm. Even spending origin chi poured into the dragon-suppressing image would very likely carry it to mastery. Put that way, it stops being a hard question. Body refining has always been laborious. It is not bad, but it demands an enormous amount of work before it shows a man anything. When I chose techniques in the past, I passed over the body refining manuals every time. I did not have the hours to spend, and a body refining art below a certain grade still will not stop. One honest sword thrust. I turn it over a long time and then decide to cultivate it, and the argument that settles it is simple. In the ghost realm, the odds of stumbling across a hot spring like this one are near nothing, so I should give myself every life-saving trick I can buy now, because from the first day I set foot inside that place I will be in danger. Decision made, I tripped the small formation built into the heaven grade room. The inn's better rooms come with 1. It has no defensive function at all, and what it does is stop anyone from spying in. If someone probes the room, it raises an alarm, which is worth more to me tonight than a wall. I check the surroundings once, find nothing out of place, and trigger the Neiwan bead and the jade pendant together. Origin chi drags itself into me in a rush, and the surface of the pool breaks into rings that run out to the rock and come back. I clamp down on the Tongwan technique before it can start circulating on its own, and I put my head under. The origin chi rampages through me, and then, immediately, a pull comes from every part of my body at the same time, and the origin chi is smelted straight into flesh and blood without leaving a trace behind. It works exactly the way the 5 body refining realms work, starting at the skin and the meat, then going down layer by layer toward the organs. In less than a quarter of an hour I surface and feel for what has changed, and something has, small and real. The first Nawan bead is spent, so I swap it, and while I do, I take the measure of my spiritual power and find about half a use left in me. The light ring of the second bead flashes and then shatters, and a slightly thinner draft of origin chi comes in, and with the sting driving nails through my head, I put my face back under the water. For 8 days I do not leave the inn. 3 meals, and every other waking hour spent on one kind of cultivation or another. All the origin chi goes to the dragon-suppressing image, and even so my realm keeps creeping toward marrow refining. The medicinal pills push it, and so does the 4th layer of the Tongwan technique shaving down the ceiling, and the dragon-suppressing image returns far more than I priced in, enough that I stop second-guessing the choice somewhere around the 3rd day. On the 8th morning, I stand at the edge of the pool and look down at what the water gives back. The skin that used to be dark has started to go fair. The features are the stranger part, because I was an ordinary-looking man before, and with that dark complexion, my face was average at best. Even later, as my cultivation grew, the most anyone could say was that I looked more upright than I used to. The face on the water now has depth to it. At a glance, nothing has changed. Look closely and keep looking, and there is more character in it every second. Whether it is handsome is not a question I have ever wasted a thought on. Shallow. I touch my jaw anyway, turn my head a little to one side, study the reflection, and fail to keep the corner of my mouth still. The appearance is the least of it. The strength packed into me has climbed by a wide margin, and if I had to put a number on it, I am walking around permanently in the great strength state. Layer the great strength characteristic on top of that and my raw power reaches a level I would not have believed a month ago. My 5 senses have sharpened along with it, so that small things at the edges of a room come to me clearly. My whole body sits at a pitch of alertness that does not switch off. The blade cuts the air with a thin hiss, and I take the longsword back calmly. The dragon suppressing image has raised my control over my own body by an entire notch, and the plainest proof is that Sword 5 has become an ordinary move I can throw out whenever I please. Sword 6 used to injure me badly every time, and now it is merely a heavy burden. Control over the body reduces what the moves cost it. So in 8 short days, with no breakthrough to marrow refining anywhere in sight, my combat power as a whole has improved by a distance I can feel. The panel reads, Body Suppression Entry, 325 out of 500, and I look at it with real regret, because it is still only the entry stage and it has already given me all of this. Whatever comes when the cultivation deepens will be worth more than I paid. I put the long sword away. Time to go back to the sect. The bramble sword reached great perfection days ago. Another day will not add much to the dragon suppressing image, and there are things I still need to buy. We leave at first light tomorrow, and if I turned up late there is no telling how many wrong ideas people would form about me. Half an hour later I come out of a shop with a heavier bow in my hand. The old bow had begun to feel like a toy after the dragon suppressing image, unable to carry the strength advantage I now have. The marrow refining realm is close, and my strength will climb again with it. Better to change bows now than to reach for one in the ghost realm and find it useless. An hour after that I walk into the sect and go to see Peng Supo and Guak Rimson. Guak Rimson looks up with a grin and tells me he has already found a team for me, and that the other side has agreed to take me on. I cup my hands and thank him for the trouble. Then he stops, stares at my face, and scratches his head, and asks in a genuinely puzzled voice why he feels as though I have changed my appearance, while he was not looking. Privately, I gather, he thinks I have gotten uglier. Dark and sturdy was so good. Why fair skin now? Early the next morning, the martial arts arena holds hundreds of people, all of them disciples bound for the ghost realm. Guak Rimson walks me over to a solid, thick-shouldered man and introduces us. He tells him that this is Jin B, and that from here on, inside the ghost realm, he is leaving me in his hands. Gal Hongil looks up, sizes me from boots to hairline, gives a small nod, and then lowers his head and goes back to sorting his gear. Guak Rimson explains to me, a little embarrassed, that he is simply like this, cold on the outside and warm underneath. I say I understand, and I smile, and I mean about half of it. What I saw in Gal Hongil's eyes was resistance, and my guess is that Guak Rimson pushed me into this team over the man's objections. Half an hour later, the whole company has assembled, and we begin to move out. I raise a hand to Peng Supo and Guak Rimson, turn, and climb into the carriage. It is a 3-hour ride to the Wind Ghost realm, and everyone travels by carriage, so that our stamina and fighting strength arrive at the entrance with us, instead of being left along the road. Inside, Gal Hongio introduces me to the rest of them, saying my name and telling them I will be the junior brother, acting with them from now on. Mok Nangdo glances at me a few times and turns to Gal Hongio, saying that he speaks bluntly as everyone knows. Then he asks whether he is wrong in thinking junior brother Jin is only in the bone forging realm. Gal Hongil confirms it. Mok Nangdu does not hide his dissatisfaction, pointing out that although none of them are especially strong, the lowest among them is marrow refining. He adds that senior sister Jang has reached the organ refining realm the same as Gal Hongil has, and that the Wind Ghost realm is not a place for games. Someone else says low and flat that he did not come here to work as a bodyguard, and that he will not be joining them this time, and that he is going to another team. Mok Nando hurries to say that they have not finished talking, that there is no reason to walk out mid-sentence, that senior brother Joe is far too impatient. Joe Jungwon shakes his head and answers that he simply does not want to be held back by anyone. Gal Hungale looks around at all of them and says their team has never required everyone to stay together, and that anyone who wants to leave should say so now. Then he sighs, very slightly, and I can read the shape of it. If Guak Rimson had not done him a favor years ago, he would never have agreed to this. But Guak Rimson asked and he agreed, so he will keep his word. And if the team empties down to the two of us, he will still take me in. Zhou Zhongwan bows to Gal Hungil and Zhang Bengyong, stands, and leaves the carriage without another word. Mok Nangdo raises a hand to call him back, and cannot find anything to say with it, and the hand comes down, and the look he sends me afterward is thick with blame. Zhang Bengyong studies me for a moment and then tells me plainly that she does not know why senior brother Gal is willing to take me. Since he has agreed, she will back his decision, and I should simply stay here quietly. With my cultivation, other teams would find it hard to accept me, and forcing my way in anywhere would do nobody any good. She knows Gal Hungio well enough to know he has been asked by someone, and she does not intend to let him become a man who breaks his word. I keep my mouth shut. Left to my own preference, if I were truly unwanted, I would rather travel alone, dangerous or not, because being given the cold shoulder every single day is a thing I have no patience for. What saves the situation is that they look down on my cultivation without mocking me for it, and there is a difference between those two. Jang Bongyang goes on, saying that since a team has been formed, there must be a division of labor to get the most out of everyone. Even if my cultivation is insufficient, I must still have something I am good at. Moknongdo agrees and adds that cooking does not count, since they eat dry rations. I pat the bow on my back and tell them I am decent with a bow and arrow. Moknongdo brightens and says talk is cheap, and asks whether I want to try. A fair number of Wanjin sword sect disciples know a little archery, which is why so many longbows went into the carriages this morning. Moknongdo admits he meant to bring one and decided it was too much trouble. Gal Hongyeol looks at me. I smile, get up, walk out, and flip myself onto the roof of the moving carriage. Moknongdo and the others come out after me, and he points at a tree standing off the road and asks, how about that one? It is not a difficult shot. With a little luck, he could make it himself. I do not agree to the tree. Instead, I tilt my head back and find the black dot riding the sky, and when I narrow my eyes, the distance folds and the bird comes close. Draw, loose, done. There is only the sound of the shaft tearing air. Then the blackbird shudders far out over the fields and drops straight down. Clearly struck. Gal Hongyeol's eyes light up and he says one word of approval. Archery well done means a great deal of unglamorous work behind it. And the Wanjin sword sect is a school that puts the Tao of the sword above everything, so genuinely proficient archers among the disciples are rare. What I have just shown is worth something in a crowd this size. Jang Bang Yong, moved as well, asks how my movement technique is. I answer that one without speaking. My figure flickers off the carriage roof, and I run down the falling bird, and in a moment I am back on the roof with it hanging from my hand. Gao Hongyeol and Jang Bang Yong look at each other with open surprise, because the movement technique is far past what either of them allowed for. Moknongdo looks shaken, since at that speed anything he did from behind would amount to eating my dust. Jang Bongyong says my name slowly, and then asks whether I am not, by any chance, the one who lured the ghost away during the herb-gathering mission. There was a rumor going around the sect about that. She had listened to it as a story and let it go. Only now does she remember that the man in the story was also named Jin Bi and was also only in the bone-forging realm. I admit it without any modesty worth the name, and say I was with senior brother Guak Rimson at the time. I wanted the archery and the movement technique seen. That was the whole point of climbing onto the roof. Because in a team, a man has to demonstrate sufficient value or he becomes luggage. Gal Hongyeol laughs out loud and says that with my movement technique and my archery, the team's strength has actually gone up, and he waves everyone back inside to talk. Agreeing to Guak Rimson had been the repayment of a debt, and he had walked into it prepared to serve as my bodyguard for a month. And instead, he has been handed a surprise. Forget the archery for a moment. The movement technique alone will earn its keep in the Ghost Realm 10 times over. Jang Bang Yong has plainly arrived at the same conclusion, and the look she turns on me is a great deal warmer than the one she wore an hour ago. Moknongdo has been smiling along with everyone, and then quite suddenly, he works out that his own position in the team has dropped to the bottom again. 3 hours pass without a rest stop, and we arrive. The entrance to the Wind Ghost realm is an enormous cave mouth, and its surface trembles continuously like the skin of a pond, and through the tremble I can make out, faintly, a different world standing on the other side. Gao Hongyeol nods and says we will rest a while and then go in. Camps are pitched all around the site, and ordinary people move in and out of them, busy at a dozen jobs. All of it serves the disciples who will walk through that mouth. Half an hour later, the whole company begins to enter. The sect briefed us before we left. Find every node inside the ghost realm and destroy it. Then kill the ghosts. And the more of them, the better, because only when the ghosts here have been cleared out will the ghost king hiding in the depths show himself. At that point, the sect's elders take the matter into their own hands. Until then, he stays where he is, and the elders can do nothing about him however badly they want to. I watch the disciples ahead of me go through one at a time, and when my turn comes, I put my hand in first. It feels like being submerged in water, and it does not feel like water at all. I step through. Something tugs at my physical body, faint and unpleasant, then lets go, and what fills my eyes is a giant city, and all of us are standing at the foot of it. The wall runs dozens of yards into the air, and the gate set into it is only a size smaller than the wall itself. And the proportions are wrong in a way that puts my teeth on edge. Men can build a wall that tall. No one would ever build a gate that big. Here it stands anyway. A sound comes, sharp, halfway between weeping and screaming. Everyone claps their hands over their ears, and it changes nothing, and the whole crowd sways, light-headed on the edge of dropping where we stand. Then a cold snort cuts across the whole square, and the wailing stops as though a door has shut on it. I turn my head. Elder Sun is standing at the rear, arrived without any of us noticing. His eyes nailed to the distant city, and in the next moment, he is gone from where he stood and going straight into it. The deacon at the back shouts for everyone to advance, and the disciples start to move, streaming toward the open gate. Gal Hongil says in a low voice that we are to follow his commands from here, that no one advances rashly, and that no one separates. The three of us nod without speaking, because this was all agreed before we came. Set against the size of the ghost city, our group is a handful of grain. The only reason 4 people can walk in at all is that the place was swept once already and the ghost population has dropped a long way. Crossing under the gate puts a chill through me. The temperature inside is genuinely lower than outside the wall, and the cold carries something else I cannot name, a quality that makes a man want to turn around and leave without ever deciding to. Dozens of teams fan out and nobody makes any effort to stay near anybody else. More bodies would be safer. More bodies would also mean far less to divide at the end. The ghost realm produces treasures useful even to experts in the spirit refining realm, which means that for body tempering disciples like us, they are not merely useful but excellent. That is the real reason the crowd at the entrance was as large as it was. By sect regulation, anything found inside belongs to the disciple who found it, with no obligation to hand it over, and if a man does want to sell, the sect buys it back at a high price. For an organ refining cultivator like Gal Hongil, the arithmetic is harsher. A great many of them have already failed to break into the spirit refining realm. Either their apertures or their spiritual power took damage in the attempt, or they have simply grown too old to have any hope left, and they come here to buy that hope back. The ones below organ refining are older than they look and come for the same reason, and they call it a gamble because that is what it is. We turn down an alley and vault a wall into a courtyard. I look around with more curiosity than caution. The furnishings are in ordinary households arranged the way an ordinary household would arrange them. If I did not know where I was standing, I would take this for some quiet city in the provinces. We search carefully and find no ghosts and no treasures, and the only sound in the place is 4 people walking, going around the courtyard walls and coming back. Jang Bengyang turns and asks Gal Hongil whether he has anything, and he shakes his head after going over every corner of the courtyard and says we should move to the next one. We follow him out and leap into the courtyard beside it. Walking next to Mok Nongdo, I ask quietly whether senior brother Gal is hunting for the Ghost Realm's nodes. He nods, sweeps our surroundings warily, and says we are not the first batch of disciples to come into this ghost realm. Most of the ghosts here are already dead, and what remains is either extremely powerful or extremely well hidden. Seeing me listening properly, he adds that the powerful ones are not our targets at all, and that the reason any of us came is to find the nodes and destroy them. I ask whether there is much benefit in destroying one. Jang Bengyang glances back at me, smiling, and says that the moment a node breaks, a massive volume of origin chi comes pouring out of it. A man of any realm at all can absorb it immediately. That lifts my eyebrows, so the payoff is that direct. Her smile widens and she adds that the origin chi is not only good for cultivation, but slowly repairs damaged apertures and spiritual power, and that with luck prime stones sometimes appear inside a node. Mok Nongdo says, with a bitter twist to it, that this is precisely why he came, since wealth is found in dangerous places. Without a risk like this, he would never advance another step inside the organ refining realm. I ask how a man finds these nodes in the first place. Mok Nongdo explains that senior brother drank a bottle of spirit suspending liquid before we entered. It lets him sense the subtle flow of origin chi inside the ghost realm, and its range is very short, so the work amounts to searching one place at a time and hoping. I nod, having got most of it, and put my attention on the walls, watching for anything that might come over one. Gal Hongil and the rest of us wander through courtyard after courtyard without finding a single node. What I get instead is a long look at the domestic arrangements of a city with no living people in it. Somebody built this place to imitate a human city down to the water jars, and there is a reason for that, and I do not know it yet. 1 hour, then 2, then 3, and nothing. In a city this size, 4 people are ants, and the ground we cover in a whole day is pitiful. Since the nodes answer only to perception and are invisible to the eye, Gal Hongil has to feel out every courtyard individually, and that is a heavy drain on the mind, and we stop to rest more times than any of us expected. Jang Bengyang notices how pale he is gone and says softly that she will take over and he should rest. He does not argue, thanks her, and hands the spirit suspending liquid over. A quarter of an hour later, we set out again with her in front, and the 3 of us on the perimeter. We have not seen a ghost yet, and nobody drops his guard. The ghosts here were cleared once, and the strongest could have gone unnoticed, or else been noticed by disciples who did not survive reporting it. Half an hour on, in a small courtyard, Jang Bengyang stops mid-step, and something pleased crosses her face. Gal Hongil asks whether she has found it, and she says the origin chi fluctuations here are unlike anywhere else, and that she wants to feel it out more carefully. She walks the courtyard pace by pace for another quarter of an hour, and then she stops beside a water well and says it is here, her eyes fixed on a point in the air above, and to the right of the stones. I ask what happens next. Gal Hongyeol says we break the node with internal strength, and then he looks around the group, and his gaze settles on me and stays there while he adds that breaking a node releases origin chi only if the node is a true one. That stops me. It means the ghost realm keeps false ones. He confirms it grimly. There are real nodes and fake nodes, and that is what makes this place dangerous. A real one costs a man nothing at all. A fake one answers the moment it breaks with a shock that goes straight through the soul, and anybody in the body tempering realm standing near it will certainly be injured. The explanation is aimed at me, the only newcomer here since the other two have known all of this for years. I ask whether the shock carries far, and whether I could break a node with an arrow instead. He says that if the node is fake, the shock does not reach far, and a bow would indeed do the job. Then he shakes his head with a sour smile and finishes the thought. If the node is real and a man breaks it from a bow shot away, he gets nothing at all. The surge lasts an instant, and the nearer he stands, the more of it enters him. I sit with that for a breath, and then it is obvious. They cannot tell the two apart, so they have to gamble. A man who does not want the origin chi can stand back and break the thing safely all day long. But the martial artists who come here come for exactly that origin chi, to feed apertures and spiritual power that have already failed them once. So standing back is not on the table. Coming here at all was the wager. A node is only the moment the cards get turned over, and no one walks away from a table at that particular moment. Jang Bang-young adds that a fake node is not a total loss, since after the mental shock a ghost comes out, and if we kill it there may be a ghost bead inside the body. Ghost beads are used in medicine and in artifact refining and are very effective. I make a face at that. It is offered as a consolation prize and it does not console me. The sequence being described is that a man's mind gets rung like a bell and then a ghost jumps out of the hole. No matter which way I turn it over, that is danger rather than luck. Gal Hongyeol says, with his whole expression gone serious, that if a ghost does appear, we kill it as fast as we possibly can. I ask whether we could not simply lure it away, since running seems the obvious answer to a fight nobody can win. Mok Nangdo says no. Inside the ghost realm, the ghosts move faster than an organ refining cultivator. So there is nothing to outrun them with, and a ghost is at its weakest the moment it leaves a fake node. It grows stronger the longer it is left alone, and given time it will absorb its own ghost bead. Jang Bang-young sees me still working through it, and explains that the bead forms in the first place because the ghost has been pinned under the node for so long. So it is a gamble, nobody has the option of declining. Gal Hongyeol thinks for a moment and then tells me to stand well back for this one. My cultivation is insufficient, it is my first time breaking a node, and he is not confident I will be braced for it. He is not worried about me taking a share of the origin chi, since a true node produces more than enough for 4. What worries him is a fake one leaving a bone-forging disciple badly injured or dead, and he promised Guak Rimson. I think about it, follow my own instinct rather than my pride, and retreat about a dozen yards. He nods. I stop where I am and put my eyes forward, ready to loose at anything. He says to begin. Jang Bang-yeong steps up to the node with her longsword, breathes in deep and drives the blade forward. Half the sword vanishes into empty air, and before I can be impressed by that, terror is pushed into my heart from outside. It is not a feeling I arrived at. It is placed there whole. The certainty of a catastrophe already falling, and it wants me on the ground, kneeling, begging. The tranquility source art spins up frantically and hauls me out of it, by the collar. In the brief window that gives me, I see Mok Nang-do blown backward off his feet. Gal Hongyeol and Jang Bang-young are both bleeding from the corners of their mouths, with their faces gone bloodless, and both are charging anyway at a phantom that has appeared where the node was. I start shooting. The arrows go in heavy and keep going in. Since ghosts were always going to be the opposition, I switched to specially made heads before we entered, ruinously expensive and worth every one. The places they strike dissolve as though the thing had been splashed with acid. A silent roar goes off inside our skulls and makes Gal Hongyeol and Jang Bang-yeong both falter half a step. It does not cost me a single shot. Inside what is nearly a blink, there are no fewer than 10 shafts standing in the ghost's body, and the force behind them is walking the whole shape backward, and its shrieking does nothing to me at all. Mok Nangdo scrambles up onto his elbows and stares, because the ghost is being held down by one man with a bow, unable to move, made to eat every hit. Gal Hongyeol shouts once, flickers to its flank, and takes the head off with a single sweep. I put 3 arrows into that head while it is still in the air and blow it apart, and Jang Bang-yeong steps in beside him, and the two of them cut the body to pieces. Blue smoke goes up. The ghost is gone. Mok Nangdo arrives with his sword out, having missed the entire fight, and sheathes it again with as much dignity as the moment allows. Then Gal Hongyeol sees the bead lying where the ghost stopped existing, and he laughs out loud. Mok Nangdo watches me walk over and tells me, with no irony in it anywhere, that I am truly too amazing. When the mental shock first hit, he had been genuinely frightened, because it meant a hard fight, and what happened instead was the opposite. The thing came out of the note and was suppressed in the same second. Its wailing bought it nothing, and for an organ-refining cultivator like Gal Hongyeol, the rest was simple work. He claps my shoulder hard enough to move me and says it was well done. He knew the archery was good, having watched it from a carriage roof, and only now does he understand that good was the wrong word. He has killed Ghost Realm entities before. He has never had one killed this cheaply. Jang Bang-yeong is all smiles too, and tells him that keeping junior brother Jin this time is the most correct decision he has ever made in his life. I wave that off, point at the ghost bead, and ask how it is collected. A jade box, apparently. Gal Hongyeol produces one, stores the bead carefully, and looks pleased with the world. He has taken a real injury and the haul is decent, so the ledger balances slightly in his favor, though the actual profit of the afternoon was discovering what I am for. He asks whether we keep searching or head back. Nothing went badly wrong, but 3 of them ate that shock, and are visibly the worse for it. Jang Bang-yeong suggests 1 more hour and then home, and Gal Hongyeol nods, since injured or not their fighting strength will carry another hour. Mok Nongdo and I have no objections. I collect the arrows, most of which will serve again, and we start looking. The hour goes by fast and produces nothing. We are all a little disappointed, and there is no point in it, because finding nodes is luck, and luck cannot be pushed. Following the morning's plan, we work our way carefully out and back to the camp, and we are not the first team home. Sitting at ours, I ask Gal Hongyeol about the thing he mentioned earlier, whether a ghost bead can really be used in alchemy, and whether there are particular requirements for it. He says there is nothing special about it. He asked a senior brother once and was told it is ordinary alchemy with 1 ghost bead added. Then he adds the part that matters, which is that the extra bead raises the difficulty sharply and makes it very easy to blow the pill furnace apart. My eyebrows twitch at that. I ask what the bead actually does to the finished pill. Leaving aside the special pills, he says, in an ordinary cultivation pill it simply strengthens the medicinal efficacy. I ask whether that is like increasing the age of the herbs, and he says more or less, and that 1 regular ghost bead will reliably add something on the order of 50 years of medicinal property to the ingredients. Jang Bang-yeong throws a log onto the fire, looks over, and asks with a smile whether I have done some study of alchemy as well. I tell her I have dabbled. Mok Nongdo laughs and says he can practice alchemy too, and that he simply never passed the Alchemist Alliance assessment, and let the skill go afterward. Then, in a tone he clearly believes is casual, he says a ghost bead really ought to be handed to a proper alchemist, since otherwise the bead will be wasted. He is afraid my hands will start itching. Ghost beads are rare, and every alchemist alive would want 1 pass at refining with 1, and Mok Nongdo has wanted it for years, and never managed it, and my share of the credit for this particular bead is large enough that nobody could refuse me. So he is doing what he can with words. I ask whether an alliance alchemist is sufficient, and what grade would be needed. He starts to say 9th, catches himself mid-word, and revises to at least 8th grade, adding that using a ghost bead and a Jangbu pill is the only way it will not go to waste. He is watching my face and raising the bar as fast as he can build it. Gal Hongyeol looks at me, hesitates, exchanges a glance with Jang Bang-yeong, and takes the bead back out and tells me that if I want to try refining it, I should simply take it. It is 1 bead. Losing it would not end anyone's year. I ask whether a Jangbu pill is really acceptable given that the Biryong pills I refine are not yet good enough. Mok Nongdo's face stops working. He asks whether I am saying I can already refine Biryong pills, and Gal Hongyeol and Jang Bang-yeong turn as well. I tell them I can refine some, that I can guarantee the batch will succeed, and that the yield is not yet what it should be. Between one thing and another, my proficiency with the Biryong pill has only just come up toward perfection, so I will not explode a furnace, and I will not promise a full 1 every time. Jang Bang-yeong asks, curious now, whether I am an alchemist of the Alliance. If a man can honestly claim Biryong pills, then Jangbu pills and Light Spirit pills are nothing, and anyone with that ability would certainly have gone and been assessed. I say that I am an 8th grade alchemist of the Alliance, and I take the jade plaque out of my robe. Mok Namdo's eyes widen by degrees. He named 8th grade a moment ago as an impossible bar, and an 8th grade plaque came out of my robe, and being slapped in the face, this precisely does not happen often. He takes the plaque without quite meaning to, turns it over, and finds it exactly what the Alchemist Alliance issues. Gal Hongyeol and Jang Bang-yeong trade a shaken look, because a man this multi-talented at my age is not a common animal. 8th grade alchemists are not rare in the world. They are rare in the Wanjin sword sect at my age, and rarer still attached to archery and a movement technique like mine. Mok Nongdo asks whether they should let me try after all. Gal Hongyeol nods and says that with a ready-made alchemist at the fire we obviously should, since that way less of the bead's origin chi is lost and a Jangbu pill is sufficient. I point out that I brought no pill furnace and have no herbs. He says he will borrow a furnace and that there are herbs in the camp, and I go to buy them. The ingredients for a Jangbu pill are not complicated and carry no requirement for age, and the camp stocks all of them, which suggests somebody thought ahead. By the time I come back, the furnace is sitting beside our fire. Gal Hongyeol looks up and asks what else is needed and whether the firewood will do, because he genuinely does not understand any part of this. Mok Nongdo eyes the pile and suggests splitting some finer wood, since finer wood makes the heat easier to control. That is true, and it is also the standard advice, because his refining is average and his knowledge is not. I wave Gal Hongyeol back down before he can go find an axe and tell him these are fine. Mok Nongdo looks at me with growing confusion. Logs that thick are for keeping warm. They are not for alchemy. I ask, carefully, whether the ghost bead and the herbs go in together with no particular order, since I have never refined anything this way before. Mok Nongdo says yes, that much he knows, and that they simply go in together. I pick up the furnace, check it over, find nothing wrong with it and the inside already clean, and set it directly onto the campfire. Mok Nongdo's eyes come close to leaving his head. Gal Hongyeol and Jang Bangyong do not understand alchemy well enough to know whether that is correct, but they can read Mok Nongdo's face, and what they read there makes them uneasy. The plaque should not be fake. There would be no point in faking it. I do not notice any of this. Once the furnace is hot, I throw the herbs and the ghost bead in together. Mok Nongdo keeps staring. Refining over a campfire was outrageous enough. The herbs went in like a man salting a stew, and he has begun to wonder whether the methods of alchemy changed enormously while he was not paying attention. Gal Hongyeol and Jang Bangyong look at each other. Neither has watched anyone refine before, and even they can tell my movements are bold past the point of comfort. Alchemy is supposed to be a delicate art. In my hands it apparently resembles stir-frying. Under 3 bewildered stares, the furnace declines to explode and begins instead to give off a thread of medicinal fragrance. It is faint at first. Within moments it is rich. Mok Nongdo's expression has passed astonishment and arrived near doubt about his own life. I have not controlled the flame at any point, and have used nothing but internal strength to regulate the medicinal properties inside the furnace. That overturns everything he was taught. The old alchemist did not teach it this way, and so a thought arrives that he cannot get rid of, which is that the reason he achieved nothing in alchemy across all those years may be that his method was too meticulous. He was misled. As I slap the lid off, Mok Nongdo is looking at the old man's face somewhere behind his eyes and weeping about it internally. He believed for years that he was a genius alchemist, and reality corrected him, and only tonight does he understand that the correction was somebody else's fault. Gal Hongyeol crowds in over the furnace mouth without any manners at all, sees 5 Jangbu kills lying quietly inside, and cannot keep the joy off his face. I take them out one by one into a jade box and look them over, and they are nothing like the Jangbu pills I have refined before. The color is fuller. The fragrance does not go everywhere the way I expected, but ends up locked inside the pills themselves. All 5 sit there glowing very faintly, and a man's hand wants to pick one up for no reason he could defend. Gal Hongyeol proposes 2 for me and 1 each for the 3 of them. Jang Bangyong has no objection. Mok Nongdo, who has crossed over into something close to worship in the last quarter of an hour, has considerably less than none. I hesitate a moment before accepting, and then I accept, because refusing a kindness this plainly meant would insult all 3 of them. Mok Nongdo swallows his in one gulp and starts circulating immediately. Gal Hongyeol tells the rest of us to cultivate first and says he will take his last. There is normally no danger in the camp, and caution costs nothing. Jang Bangyong smiles and does not decline. I tip my head back and swallow mine, and the Jangbu pill melts the moment it touches my mouth and turns into a mass of energy that sweeps through my whole body at once. The Tongwan technique starts on its own and begins taking the energy apart. What surprises me is the strength of it. This pill, with a ghost bead in it, is not merely stronger than the ordinary version, but different in kind from any pill I have swallowed, and even the Biryong pill looks thin beside it. The closest thing to it is absorbing origin chi directly, except that it goes down easier and does not load the body the way raw origin chi does. When I open my eyes, Mok Nongdo and Jang Bangyong have already finished, and Gal Hongyeong is in the middle of his. Jang Bangyong tells me kindly that there is 1 more Jangbu pill and no reason to rush it. There is still plenty of medicinal power left in all of us, and I should wait until this one is fully absorbed. I thank her for the reminder and do not correct her. The truth is that the pill in me was digested nearly to the dregs some time ago. The Tongwan technique at its 5th stage accounts for part of that. The larger part is the dragon suppressing image, whose body suppression stage is built on strengthening control of the body by absorbing the origin chi of heaven and earth. Turning a mouthful of medicinal power into internal strength costs it no effort at all. That is also why my session ran longer than theirs. A moment later, Gal Hongyeol opens his eyes. He says with his whole face lit up that thanks to the pill I refined, he had been worried about whether his injuries would affect tomorrow, and now sees he was worrying about nothing. Jang Bangyong sighs and says that with more pills like these, we would not need to hunt nodes at all. Gal Hongjil laughs softly and asks where she imagines ghost beads come from if not from taking risks. My archery was the surprise of his day. Fake nodes will be far easier from here on, and he is not claiming a bead every time, only that 4 lives are meaningfully safer than they were this morning. For him, that alone is enough. Early the next morning, the 4 of us are standing inside the Wind Ghost realm again. Gal Hongjil takes out the spirit suspending liquid he drew this morning, and as he lifts it I reach over and stop him. He looks at me without understanding. I ask quietly whether he would let me try today. He frowns slightly and neither refuses nor agrees. The liquid exists to make a man more sensitive to origin chi, and perception does strengthen as cultivation climbs. But without a genuine breakthrough into the spirit refining realm, it stays very slight, and that is as true of organ refining as of anything below it. Better than bone forging and marrow refining is the whole of the claim. I smile and ask for 30% of the bottle, and I tell him archers sometimes have strange intuitions. Zhang Bengyong looks at Gal Hongjil and says to give it to me, since it is only 30%. With the 2 of them searching all day yesterday, they turned up exactly 1 node and it was a fake. He thinks it through. At worst, a little of the liquid is wasted, and as she says, the 2 of them searching flat out guarantees nothing either. He hands it over and tells me to stay safe, because whoever searches walks at the very front and carries the risk of walking there. I sniff the bottle, which is pungent and fishy, and I have no idea what went into it. I drink off about 30%. The taste narrows my eyes on its own, and behind it something cool goes straight up into my mind, and I close my eyes without deciding to. When I open them, the ghost realm no longer feels the way it did a minute ago. Zhang Bengyong sees my expression and explains, smiling, that I have sensed a little origin chi, and that is why everything feels different. I nod and take the lead into the city with the 3 of them behind me. The nodes inside a ghost realm do not sit still. After a period, they shift position on their own. And the one mercy is that the shifting is not random teleportation across the whole city, but stays inside a certain range. So we do not resume from the courtyard we abandoned yesterday evening. We restart from a section in the middle to be sure nothing is skipped. I stop in the first courtyard and stand there without moving, and the 3 of them look at me in confusion. I do not explain. What I am doing is adjusting the output of the jade pendant by small degrees, and I keep it hidden well enough that none of them see the faint glow. Yesterday's method struck me as badly inefficient. It was slow, and at the end of all that slowness, a man still had to gamble. So last night I decided to bring the jade pendant into it. This semi-spiritual artifact has proven to be a tool for every occasion, devastating as a sudden strike and thoroughly useful in helping me absorb origin chi. What I want to know is whether it can amplify the spirit suspending liquid enough to show me the nodes clearly. The cool sensation in my mind shudders and then settles. The world I am perceiving changes all at once. Faint flickering lines lie across the entire ghost realm, dense as a net, and where they run thickest is the deepest part of the city, which glows a black close to despair. Everywhere else is better, though patches of black are scattered all through it. It works. My spiritual power starts draining immediately. I leap up onto the courtyard wall and stop looking at the distance, pulling my attention into the courtyards inside 100 yards. There, a black spot sits in a courtyard a few dozen yards off, shaped something like an octopus. Dozens of black lines drift faintly out of it, resonating very subtly with the sky above and with the depths of the city. Gal Hongjil and the others startle at the sight of me on the wall and move in to guard the base of it. I tell them to go that way, and as I say it, I shut the jade pendant down, because in that short span more than half my spiritual power is already gone. They agree without argument. Having handed me the search, they will not second-guess any part of it until it is finished. We go forward carefully, and although I sense no danger, care is free. It takes us the better part of a quarter of an hour to cross a few dozen yards and reach the courtyard. On the way, I ask Gal Hongjil whether I have it right. A fake node is where a ghost hides, and a true node is a support point for the operation of the entire ghost realm. He nods and says I could put it that way, and that the trouble is nobody can tell them apart, so all anyone can do is find one and try it. I ask how many true nodes a realm this size would hold, and he says he does not know, but at least several hundred, possibly a great deal more. Mok Nongdo cannot hold it in any longer, and asks whether I have found something. I point ahead and tell him there is a node in this courtyard, and I bring the jade pendant up again. At close range, the black spot is far clearer, and I can faintly feel origin chi oscillating inside it. If true nodes really are the supports the ghost realm stands on, then the odds on this one being real are very high. Their eyes light up. Gal Hongjil takes the spirit-suspending liquid out again and moves to drink. He is not checking my work. He intends to be the man who breaks the node, so that if it is fake, he takes the first wave and a bone-forging disciple does not. I stop him and say there is no need, that I will break it with the bow. I put everyone at a moderate distance, far enough that a fake node's shock arrives weakened, and near enough that a real one can still be drummed properly. He hesitates and nods. I draw. The pendant is already off, and I am aiming by the thin sensation the spirit suspending liquid left me, with the tranquility source art turning over hard so it can eat part of any mental impact. The arrow goes. Something gives with a faint muffled snap, and before any of us can decide what we heard, origin chi comes boiling out of the node. It surges with more force than we braced for, and catches all four of us off guard, and then our bodies take it in and our cultivation techniques start turning by reflex. I half close my eyes and feel it digested, converted, added to my internal strength, and a smile comes onto my face without permission. In the space of one breath, the flood stops. That is the ghost realm detecting a broken node and repairing itself, sealing the origin chi off again. The four of us open our eyes with the same look of wanting. Gal Hongyeol and Jiang Bangyong's injuries from yesterday have healed completely under that one wave, and even some of the old damage from their failed attempts on the spirit refining realm seems to have improved. My own spiritual power, nearly spent a moment ago, is substantially restored, and the growth in my internal strength has me grinning like an idiot. The origin chi here is genuinely different from the kind outside, which has never restored spiritual power like this. That may be the entire reason the sect, from the elders down to the newest disciple, is so eager about this place. Then Moknando points at the ground beneath where the node hung and shouts. The four of us go over and find a transparent shard lying there, giving off a faint light. Gal Hongale's eyes brighten instantly. He calls it a node shard, says our luck is in, then crouches and puts it into a jade box. I ask whether it is good for anything. Jiang Bangyong, all smiles, says it is a treasure only spirit refining experts can use, and that body-tempering martial artists have no use for it whatsoever. The sect grants 5,000 contribution points for a single shard. She is finding me more pleasing to the eye by the hour, since I am apparently a walking lucky charm who located a real node inside a morning and turned up a shard inside it. Node shards do not come with every real node. They come with pure luck. Moknando laughs and says we have made a killing, because 5,000 split 4 ways is over 1,000 each, which already rivals what the sect pays for the entire mission. That explains something. The shard felt to me like a piece of ordinary glass, and if it takes the spirit refining realm to use one, the principle is probably the same as a spiritual artifact. I ask whether we continue. Moknongdo nods rapidly and says that if I am not tired, then none of them are. Gal Hongjio smiles and says it depends on whether I want to rest, since the three of them have not really done anything yet. The origin chi restored my spiritual power and I feel no fatigue at all, so I bring the jade pendant up, and the thin lines rise again across the whole realm, faint and slipping away at the edges of perception. This way, the distance is longer this time, and I stop several times to bring the pendant up and correct our heading. And at one point the black dot moves position while I am looking at it. Eventually we reach another courtyard. I read the dot inside and frown, because compared to the first one there are no black lines drifting anywhere near it. It sits there alone. Gal Hongyeol asks what is wrong. I think about how to put it and tell him that the feeling this node gives me is not quite the same as the last. Jiang Bangyong asks whether the difference is large, and I say it is not large, but it is definitely there, and that it has me wondering whether this node is a fake. The way I understand it, those black lines may be the veins the Ghost Realm's origin chi runs through, which would mean a real node has to be connected to them. A node with nothing attached would then be exactly what it looks like. Gal Hongyeol considers it and says a fake one can still be attacked. At worst, they stand further back, and as long as nobody takes the howl badly, a newborn ghost is not hard to kill, and with luck, there is another ghost bead in it. The value of ghost beads has gone up sharply now that someone here can refine them. A bead turned into pills promptly is only slightly worse than raw origin chi, which makes the risk worth taking on arithmetic alone. Jiang Bangyong asks where the node is, and I point and tell her it is a foot to the right of the corner of that wooden shelf. She pulls everyone back to a good distance, and then tells me that if a ghost appears, I am to lock it down first, and the three of them will handle the rest. I agree. Moknando opens his mouth slightly and closes it, having worked out that his role has been reduced to something near ceremonial, with only the cheering left to him. Draw, loose, done. The arrow goes into the node and a ripple runs out of it and wrinkles the air. That is the spiritual power attack a shattered fake node produces. All four of us feel our spiritual power turn heavy, the way the air turns heavy before a disaster. And beyond that, there is no real damage. The ghost shadow forms beside the node, and before it can take in a single detail of where it is, its forehead caves and pain floods through the whole of it. 7 or 8 arrows stand in its head before it makes a sound, and the head is nearly gone by the time it tries. Gal Hongyeol and Jiang Bangyong arrive on either side of it, one taking the head and the other hacking the limbs away, and my arrows pin every severed limb to the ground. Moknongdo is slower, but he gets there, and he and Jiang Bangyong destroy the torso between them. Inside a dozen breaths, the thing is ash, and never once managed anything that deserved to be called a struggle. A ghost bead lies quietly in the middle of it as proof that a ghost was here at all, Moknong-do laughs and calls it refreshing, mostly because he participated this time and was never in any danger while he did it. I put the bow down. These ghosts are not hard to kill. As long as nobody eats the howl at the start and the initiative stays where it belongs, the advantage passes to the martial artists and never comes back. The reason it usually goes badly is that the disciples all want to gamble. Finding a node takes luck, and after finally finding one, asking a man to break it from a bow shot away is asking him to throw away the only thing he came here for. If it is fake, no harm. If it is real, the origin chi vents into empty air while he watches. The only workable answer is the one we used yesterday, where somebody hangs back as support so a bad node cannot wipe out the whole team. I do not envy whoever is standing in the rear on the day a real one opens up. I walk over as Gal Hongyeol pockets the bead and ask whether a fast enough kill always produces one. Jang Bangyeong says not always, but in most cases yes, and her face is full of smiles, because that fight cost us nothing at all, and paid us a ghost bead. Gal Hongyeol hands me what is left of the spirit suspending liquid and says it is all mine, and he is counting on me today. He seems to have run out of things to say about the sensing. Moknong-do says he is counting on me too, and behind the joke he is doing sums, because if this holds up, his own breakthrough into organ refining stops being a distant hope. The future is bright. I drink most of the bottle and leave a swallow for an emergency, and looking at the three excited faces I decide resting would waste daylight. I have a small half of my spiritual power left. That is one more search, and if the next one is real, possibly several. The pendant comes up, and this time I aim my attention squarely at the places where the thin lines gather. An incense stick of time. Later the four of us are standing in an alley and I put my sword forward instead of an arrow. The others are visibly nervous. The node is directly in front of us, closer than any of them has stood to one. If it is real, then what we can absorb is the maximum this realm will ever give us. Something tears with a hard crack, and the tide comes out. All four of us are ready this time, and the Tongwon technique is running frantically before the sound is finished. I am nearest, so I take the most of it, and for a moment I have the distinct impression that I am about to burst at the seams. It stays an impression. Meridians, bones, flesh, all of it holds. One breath and it is over, and the four of us stand there without moving for a long time. When we finally open our eyes, there's a smile on every face that nobody is bothering to control. There was too much. The effect is at least half again what the first node gave us. Jang Bang-yeong's face is flushed, and her body has gone soft under her, which is what happens when someone takes on more origin chi at once than the body can process. She looks like a woman who would very much like this problem again tomorrow. Gal Hongyeol closes his fists slowly. He can feel his damaged apertures and spiritual power coming back to life, and if this holds for another dozen doses, the hidden injuries from his failure will be gone entirely. He also has the experience of that first attempt, and a failed attempt is still an attempt, and trying again would raise his odds by 20% at the least. He is thinking about the spirit refining realm now, and his blood is up. That step is where the gap from body tempering truly opens, in combat power and in the number of years a man is given. It is the first step toward longevity, and everybody here knows it. Moknong-do has felt his own bottleneck for organ refining loosen, and he is confident that without another drop of origin chi he could go home, cultivate diligently for a few months, and break through cleanly. Coming here and running into me looks to him like a gift from heaven. I check the panel and the corner of my mouth goes up, because marrow refining is closer than it has been. The internal strength converted out of this origin chi is worth far more than anything a Nawan bead gave me. My spiritual power has come back far enough for at least one more search. I tell them we continue, and the three of them look at each other with their faces full of joy and agree. Jang Bang-yeong looks at me a moment longer than the others do, with light moving in her eyes, and then her face colors slightly and she puts her head down. 3 hours later, the four of us walk back into camp flushed red to the ears. That is what happens when men absorb more origin chi than their bodies can hold, and the surplus is nowhere to go. We rested twice in those 3 hours, and spent everything else hunting. I found 2 more real nodes, and the origin chi from them filled our bowls past the rim. 2 more fakes turned up as well, and the ghosts inside them died easily enough, though the pair only produced 1 ghost bead between them. No node shards. That, as everyone keeps telling me, is entirely a matter of luck. Gal Hongyeol asks whether we are refining tonight, and I tell him we are because the sooner a ghost bead goes into a furnace, the less of it leaks away, and I have no reason on earth to leave that on the table. He says he will borrow a pill furnace, then changes his mind aloud and decides to buy the thing outright so nobody has to borrow one again, and goes off laughing toward the other fires. Moknong-do volunteers to buy the ingredients, and although his own success rate with the Jangbu pill is dismal, he does know what goes into one. He has felt like a freeloader all day and is working hard at looking useful, and under that is something closer to fear. Today's haul was so large it has begun to feel unreal, and being cut from this team now would be a loss he could only weep about. Jang Bang Yong and I build the fire up. The wood crackles and the cold pulls back from around us. She looks over and asks, out of nothing at all, whether I am married. I tell her I am not, and I look up, startled. Her face is lit from below by the flames, bright and handsome, going in and out of the dark as the fire moves. Years of martial practice have left her figure lean and finely made. She is around 30, which among ordinary people counts as getting on, and among martial artists is nothing worth remarking. By the standards of the life I had before, 30 is the best a woman ever looks, past the unripeness of a girl and into something warmer. She asks, smiling, whether there is nobody who has caught my eye. I tell her my cultivation is insufficient, and that I am still working on that. She says the bone forging realm is admittedly a bit weak, but that with my talent, the cultivation is only a question of time. With the origin chi infusions coming, I should reach the marrow refining realm very soon, with the organ refining realm within reach after it. She is not flattering me. Being washed through with origin chi day after day is a treatment not even many disciples of the Sonon sword sect ever get, and we are getting it for the price of walking into a haunted city. For a martial artist still in bone forging, that repeated washing improves the root bone itself, and everything afterwards runs smoother for it. I cup my hands and tell her I will take her auspicious words to heart. She says, beaming, that there is no need for that kind of politeness between us. She is about to say something else when Mok Nongdo comes back into the firelight with his arms full and his face bursting, and she rolls her eyes at him instead. Mok Nongdo blinks, entirely lost as to what he has done. Gal Hongil returns a moment later with a pill furnace in his hand. I take it and ask what it costs so that I can pay him, and he waves that away and says a furnace costs nothing worth discussing. Everyone gets a share of what comes out of it, and he is not fool enough to take my money in a week like this one. I let it go, check the furnace over, and set it above the fire. I ask whether I can simply put 2 ghost beads in at once. He thinks and says he believes so, and that the difficulty will be far greater than with 1. I ask whether the medicinal effect changes, and he says it does, greatly, and that the estimate he has heard is that it approaches the properties of a 100-year-old ingredient. Then we try it. The value of 2 50-year ingredients is nowhere near 1 at 100 years, so there is nothing to weigh. As for difficulty, I ground the Jangbu pill to great perfection long ago with no further progress left in it, and stronger medicinal properties are troublesome without being hard. Still, it is my first time this way, so I lift the furnace off the bonfire and heat it over a small flame instead. Gal Hongyeol and the other 2 let out a breath they have been holding since last night's performance over an open campfire frightened them more than any ghost has. A thin fragrance rises, then vanishes again, and the furnace begins to shiver on its stand. My expression does not change. 2 beads make the fight between the medicinal properties much fiercer, and all of it is still inside my hands. The shivering slows and stops. I slap the lid off and a clean, cool fragrance rolls out, and I lean over and my expression shifts a little, because these are another step away from yesterday's. Mok Nongdo asks how many, nervously. If the number is small, he will not have a share, and he has enough self-awareness to know it. Still 5. I take them out one by one into the jade box, and Gal Hongyo says we distribute them the way we did yesterday, and neither of the others objects. Holding one up, I find a trace of patterning on the surface of the pill, familiar in a way I cannot place. Then I take out the jade token the Alchemist Alliance issued me, and hold the 2 together. They are not identical. They are related. My guess is that ingredients of sufficient age produce this after a successful refining, and whether that guess is right is a question for the Alliance when I next stand in front of one. Gal Hongyeol tells the 3 of us to take ours first, and we do. This one does not melt on the tongue. The whole pill sits there and puts out a wave of heat, and the Tongwan technique starts up and begins refining the medicinal power as it comes off. It takes me a full half-hour to finish, and the effect is extraordinary, at least 3 times what yesterday's pill gave me and possibly more. When I look at the progress on my realm, it has climbed close to the top of the bar. The rest of the night goes to quiet cultivation. We are back inside the ghost realm early and in high spirits, and with yesterday behind us, the search runs smoothly. By the end of the day, we have broken 5 true nodes and 3 fakes, taken another node fragment, and with luck bordering on rude, 3 more ghost beads. The ghosts out of the fakes grow steadily stronger as we push deeper, and with the 4 of us working without needing to speak, they die anyway. On the 3rd day, we break 6 real nodes, which nobody here has ever heard of, and the 4 of us end it so thoroughly bombarded with origin chi that our heads swim. There is daylight left, and none of us dares take another dose. Being the first body-tempering martial artists in history to burst from excess origin chi is not the kind of record anyone wants. Gal Hongyeol and Jang Bangyeong are elated. 3 days of infusion have finished the job on the apertures and spiritual power that their failed breakthroughs ruined, and today the damage is not merely repaired but improved, past where it started. At this pace, once the trip ends, the two of them can go home, cultivate quietly for a season, and prepare to attempt the spirit refining realm again. On the second night, Moknando used a Jangbu pill to push at the organ refining realm, and he broke through without a single mishap, and then he shouted about it until people at other fires told him to stop. We settled on 3 ghost beads as the maximum for a refining, and it is not my skill that sets the ceiling, it is the furnace. With 3 in it, the thing comes close to bursting, and with 4, the outcome would not be in doubt. With 3, the patterning on the Jangbu pills grows markedly clearer and the medicinal power reaches a stage it did not have before. It is easier for the body to take in and better in every measurable way. And tonight, I am going to break through to the marrow refining realm. The origin chi in this place has done more than I expected. I had assumed I would need considerably longer before the attempt was worth making. But between the infusions, the Tongwan technique grinding down the ceiling, and the dragon suppressing image holding my body under a control it never had, I find myself standing right against the wall. The Tongwan technique runs fast, and internal strength fills my muscles and my bones and everything between them. Then something goes off in my soul like a struck drum. I lean into it, and my internal strength breaks through the barrier and spreads out step by step into the marrow of every bone I own. A moment later, I open my eyes and let out a long breath of stale air. My 5 senses, already sharpened by the dragon-suppressing image, go further. I can hear insects moving in the grass dozens of yards out, and wherever I turn my eyes, the world has more in it, as though a thin cloth had been lifted off everything. The body-tempering realm develops the potential of the human body a stage at a time. Organ refining is its summit, and past that a man turns toward the apertures and their mysteries. That is why every step forward down here is one a man feels in his hands. Gal Hongjial cups his hands and congratulates me, and Zhang Banggyong and Moknangdo do the same. In the marrow refining realm, among the disciples of the Wanjin sword sect, a man has left the ranks of beginners. At my age, it does not make me a genius. It does mean nobody looks past me anymore. I return the courtesy and look at a tree dozens of yards off, where a single leaf comes loose in the night wind. Something in me stirs, my figure blurs out of where I stand, and I am up beside the crown of the tree catching the leaf out of the air with one hand. I turn it over and look at the veins, set my right foot lightly against a branch, and come back to my original spot the way a breeze goes through a willow. With the breakthrough, the soul-chasing step finally shows what it was built to do. My cultivation had been throttling it this whole time. Under a high moon, I sit down cross-legged and take stock of everything I own. The panel puts me at marrow refining, 37 out of 500,000, and the requirement did not multiply by 10 again, which lets me breathe. On current conditions, I might finish this realm inside a year, and if the Tongwan technique reaches its 5th level, the ceiling drops further, and the year shortens with it. Every infusion here moves my internal strength a distance ordinary cultivation would need months to cover. I will not waste thought on how long I can stay. Find a node, drink it, find the next one. Beyond the soul-chasing step recovering its true speed, the Starry Night Sword and the Bramble Sword are no longer held back by the state of the man swinging them. If Shim Jungyeon of the Sonon Sword sect stood in front of me again and I wanted to leave, he could not stop me. If I chose to stay and fight, I would not need the Jade Pendant to do it. The startling Thunder Sword force is a formidable thing, but with the dragon suppressing image in me, it can no longer lock my muscles the way it did. Every countershock the Bramble Sword returns would go into him instead. Inside 100 exchanges, the Bramble Sword alone could shake him to death, and with Sword 6 I could take the opening in his forms and take his head with it. Crossing a single realm changed my strength past recognition, so the plan is straightforward. Push the Tongwan technique to the 5th level, and perfection, and the Tranquility Source art with it, and once I am back at the sect, begin the dragon suppressing image in earnest. Even short of the proficient level, what that technique has already done is obvious. It is not simply that I am stronger. Everything about the body improved at once. 7 Jangbu pills a day used to be my limit, and running the Tongwan technique for a few hours past that meant swallowing a meridian pill to take the strain off. I tested it today and 10 Jangbu pills gave me no trouble at all, and I can run the Tongwan technique for hours without a meridian pill, and with one the window stretches further still. A technique I could not even read 3 weeks ago is showing potential that frightens me a little. I have also decided to move my daily cultivation over to Biryong pills once I am back. They cost more. I will go faster. Dozens of yards away, at another fire, a man watches our side of the camp. He says quietly that the 4 of them seem to have had a very good few days and do not look injured in the slightest. Someone asks whether he has found out what they took. He shakes his head and says he cannot, that Gal Hongyeol is a careful man who never lets a hint of a good haul reach anyone outside his own team. A third voice observes that their complexions are extremely full and that they must have taken several origin chi infusions to look like that. Then someone wonders aloud whether they have some special method, and Yeo Hyun turns and tells Jo Jung-won that he used to follow Gal Hong Gale and that he should go and ask about cooperating. Jo Jung-won hesitates. A few days ago, he walked out rather than be dragged down by a bone-forging disciple, and going back now, this eagerly, would look like exactly what it is. Yeo Hyun frowns and asks whether he does not want an origin chi infusion. The man beside him says there was friendship there once, that it is fine, and that anyway he would be going as their representative rather than as himself. So there is nothing to be afraid of. Jo Jung-won looks around at all of them, sets his teeth, and walks over. Gal Hong-gil is resting with his eyes shut. He hears the footsteps, opens them, sees who it is, and his brow comes down. Jo Jung-won arrives with a smile fixed on, and cups his hands to him and to Jang Bong-gyeong. Mok Nang-do turns his head and asks, without any warmth, why he is back. The way Jo Jung-won walked out that day was ugly, and every man is entitled to his own ambition, so nobody said anything about it at the time. But coming back now invites the question. Jo Jung-won looks at him and asks whether he has broken through to the organ refining realm, and his eyes widen as he feels the aura coming off him. Mok Nang-do's aptitude was never good, roughly the same as Jo Jung-won's own, and their cultivation had sat level with each other for years. A handful of days later, the man is a realm ahead. Mok Nang-do says flatly that the ghost realm is dangerous, that he risked his life, and that he was lucky. Ordinarily, he loves to show off. Tonight, he understands the situation exactly, and quiet is how a man stays rich. Jo Jung-won congratulates him twice, and feels the jealousy climbing his throat while he does it. He is still in marrow refining with no idea when his chance will come, and being the newcomer in other teams lately means that whatever there is to divide reaches him last. Mok Nang-do can call it luck all he likes. Nobody breaks into organ refining on luck. Mok Nang-do cups his hands, says he is too kind, and stops looking at him. Embarrassed now, Jo Jung-won turns to Gal Hong-gol and says he has come at senior brother Yeo Hyun's request to see whether there is any possibility of cooperation between the two teams. Gal Hong-gil says that he was in this team once, and therefore knows perfectly well that he has never liked having too many people around. Then he asks him to thank Yeo Hyun for the kindness on his behalf. Then he waves his hand and the matter is closed. Now that we are drinking several nodes a day, a man would have to be badly confused to want partners. The origin chi out of a real node lasts one breath, which is about enough for 5 people to take in fully, and any more than that dilutes what everyone gets. Beyond the arithmetic, there is his own long-held philosophy of few men and capable ones, since more men means more quarrels. And when two teams work together, there is always the question of whose word is final. Jo Jung-won will not let it go and asks him to consider it further, saying that senior brother Yeo is genuinely sincere. Watching Mok Nang-do's breakthrough has hardened whatever hesitation he arrived with into want. Somewhere under that, he has begun to regret leaving it all, because if he had stayed, he might have had a share in that breakthrough himself. Gal Hong-gil says he has made himself very clear and that Jo Jung-won should go back. Jo Jung-won turns to Jang Bong-gyeong and gets as far as her name before she shakes her head, and the rest of the sentence dies in his throat. His face goes dark. He does not dare lose his temper about it, so he turns on his heel and takes himself back the way he came. Jang Bong-gyeong watches him go and says trouble is coming. Gal Hong-gil's face does not move. He says it was always going to, sooner or later. Our condition is simply too good to hide. The infusions have been intense enough that we have been injuring ourselves on purpose to dull the look of it, and even that only takes the edge off the fullness of our auras. Some things cannot be suppressed by trying. Mok Nang-do asks what we do, and says he has heard of Yeo Hyun and that the man is a rogue. Breaking several nodes a day has become extremely comfortable, and Mok Nang-do has selfish motives the same as everyone else, and has no intention of sharing. Gal Hong-gil says it is fine, and that tomorrow we let Yeo Hyun's team go in ahead of us. If he wants to sit outside and wait us out, he is welcome to, since we still have unspent origin chi in our flesh. Jang Bong-gyeong smiles and says that if it truly does not work, we give them a beating and teach them something. With their hidden injuries healed, she and Gal Hong-gil have climbed back to their absolute peak, and among every disciple on this trip, the two of them can be counted in the top few. Mok Nang-do is an organ refining now. My archery is what it is. If we are provoked, we will simply fight, and Yeo Hyun's team could not stop us. And even if the matter went back to the sect, we would have our reasons ready. Jo Jung-won reports the failure and Yeo Hyun curses him thoroughly for it, and then curses Gal Hong-gil and the rest of us for good measure. The next morning, Yeo Hyun means to fall in behind us, and one cold look from Gal Hong-gil changes his plan, and he goes in ahead of us grumbling. Mok Nang-do sighs and calls it bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Gal Hong-gil smiles and says the world is full of such people, and they are not worth minding. Different men, different natures. I shake my head and let it go. By the time we step through, Yeo Hyun's group has vanished into the streets, plainly unwilling to be seen anywhere near us. I drink the spirit-suspending liquid and start into the ghost city. Most of the near districts are already searched, so we go several hundred yards deep and begin working a grid. The jade pendant comes up, and my sense for origin chi has strengthened slightly since yesterday. I read the ground for a few dozen yards in every direction and find a courtyard a dozen yards to the right. It holds a node with several black lines drifting around it, which makes it real. I smile and lead them forward carefully. Inside the courtyard, I bring the pendant up again to fix the exact position, and a black spot flashes at the edge of my perception from a long way off. I shout for them to watch out. I have seen that kind of black spot several times over the past days. Not knowing what it was, I have given it a wide berth every time. What I did not expect was that after avoiding it deliberately this morning, it would come straight at us. Gal Hongil asks what is wrong, and all three of them are already braced, reading my face. I open my mouth to tell everyone to run, and before the words are out, the black spot comes down over the whole courtyard. Gal Hongil says to close in on him, and then, low and hard, that under no circumstances is anyone to light a red candle. A red candle wards off anomalies. Lighting one inside a ghost realm is throwing a sack of vipers into a crowded room, and while it might make something wary, it will also turn every eye in the place toward the man holding it, which makes it no better than a white candle. The other two and I start moving toward him. Steel rings on steel, ear-splitting in the dark. Gal Hongil stares at Jang Bong-yeong in disbelief, because she has just driven her sword at his heart, and if he had not been strung to the breaking point already, he would be dead. Then Mok Nongdo comes at him shouting that they should die together, and his whole body detonates, and Gal Hunga-ol is drenched from his hair to his boots in what is left of him. Gal Hunga-ol stands stunned for a heartbeat, and then his face hardens. He reaches for his waking incense and closes his hand on nothing, and the incense is not the only thing missing, because the longsword has gone out of his other hand as well. He looks around and the courtyard is not there. Bodies of the starved lie everywhere he turns. His own clothes are rags. Hunger comes up out of his stomach, in waves sharp enough to cut. His strength has left him, and what he wants most is to lie down and wait for the end. Jang Bong-yeong's voice arrives at his ear, asking what they should do, saying they cannot survive, saying she does not want to die. He turns and she is starved down to skin over bone. His eyes clear all at once. He shouts that it is fake, and his spiritual power surges and everything in front of him shatters. The courtyard is back, and the world around it has gone black, as though a curtain had been drawn over the whole district. Faint sounds move in his ears and turn into nothing when he listens for them. Mok Nongdo asks him what is wrong. He starts to say it is nothing, that the anomaly deluded him. In mid-sentence, his palm comes around and hits Mok Nongdo in the shoulder and throws him across the yard. Mok Nongdo laughs while still in the air. A mad, delighted sound. And Gal Hongil frowns deeply and puts his other hand against his own stomach, already a wet ruin, because Mok Nongdo put a blade in it a moment ago. Then Jang Bong-yeong is asking him what is wrong. He takes a step back without meaning to, his eyes going from clear to clouded and back again. For her, the courtyard has been empty for some time. She sweeps it warily. A moment ago, the other three were beside her, and now there is nobody, and Mok Nongdo's voice drifts in from somewhere impossibly distant, calling her name, with no Mok Nongdo attached to it. She does not move. The anomaly came down too fast to react to, and its power is enormous, and she cannot see through the illusions either. Then my voice is at her ear, and she turns with her sword up and her eyes hard. The man in front of her is holding a stick of waking incense, and looking around warily, and she asks him what the first thing was that the two of them said to each other when they met 2 years ago. He looks confused and answers that they only met a few days ago. She lets out a small breath and gestures him closer, and he comes cautiously to her side with his eyes on the walls. He asks what they should do, and she says this anomaly is strong, and that if Gal Hongil and the others do not find them soon, they will have to risk lighting a red candle. It is a bad idea inside a ghost realm, barely survivable for a single instant, and waiting here indefinitely is worse. Then he asks whether she is carrying a red candle, and his hand goes onto her and begins searching her body. She freezes with the blood coming up into her face and goes to shove him off, and her arms have no strength in them, and she finds herself leaning into him instead. Something is wrong. Her eyes snap wide and she drives a palm at his head, and in that half second she sees him standing there with nothing on at all, gazing at her with profound tenderness, and her palm falters as a wave of lust from nowhere she owns floods her mind. She roars, flickers, and puts the palm through his forehead anyway. Everything shatters. She is alone in the courtyard again with nothing around her. Then my voice drifts to her out of the mist, and I come walking slowly toward her holding a stick of waking incense, and she grips her sword until her knuckles go pale, having no way on earth to tell whether this one is real. When the dark came down, I heard Gal Hongil calling me. I had taken 2 steps back toward the sound before my expression changed. In my perception, the 3 people behind me had been gone for some time, while my eyes went on showing them standing exactly where they had been. Gal Hongyeong reminds me that we agreed each of us would guard one direction. Jang Bong-gyung reminds me that we agreed each of us would guard one direction. I say nothing and run the tranquility source art hard. The scene in front of me, seamless a moment ago, begins to stutter and lose conviction. Exactly as I thought. The jade pendant against my chest shivers and puts out a faint light. The tranquility source art doubles its pace, and the illusion breaks apart at once. I am not in the courtyard. At some point I walked into one of the houses, and I am mid-stride toward a corner where a sword blade lies across a bracket at the height of my face, and 2 more steps would have put it through my eye. I take out my own waking incense and light it, and I am about to go looking for the others, when my feet stop on their own. This is still an illusion, with the tranquility source art running and the jade pendant behind it. The room is still very slightly unreal, and the unreality is buried so well that the art on its own would never have found the seam. I put my hand on my longsword, let the spiritual power in my mind rise, and thrust forward. It goes in the way a blade goes into wet hide. The jade pendant erupts with light. I feel as though I have gone shoulder first through a wall. The room comes apart, and I am standing in the courtyard. I sweep it and still cannot find any of them. Somebody shouts. I blur across the yard and into a house and find Mok Nangdo swinging his longsword at nothing with a crazed face, blood running out of both ears and both eyes. The waking incense comes out fast, and as the scent spreads his expression smooths over, and he opens his eyes and looks around, lost. Then he sees me and brings the sword up, and everything in his face says he does not believe a word I have not said yet. He barks at me to say whether I am a man or a ghost. I hold up the incense and it buys me nothing. He stays where he is with his blade between us, and there is no arguing with a man in that condition, because there is no telling what he was shown in there. Layered illusions that keep stacking whenever the second one is not broken in time are more than an ordinary mind is built to carry, so I leave him to it. Hearing movement outside, I flicker straight through the wall of the house, and in the next room I find Jang Bong-gyung and Gal Hong-gyul trying to kill each other. Sword light everywhere, and the room already splinters. There is no time to explain, so I throw the waking incense down between them and let it work. The scent spreads, and after a few moments they slow, stop, and open their eyes and look around at the rest of us standing on guard. I tell them it was a layered illusion, and that they should light their own waking incense to be safe. Gal Honggyul shakes his head and says there is no need. Out of it, with his spiritual power circulating, he can tell what is real, and it is only while a man is trapped inside that the muddle-headedness keeps deluding him. He does not pretend the thing was anything less than powerful, and says that without me they would very nearly have been wiped out. Jang Bang-gyung glances at me, and for no reason I can identify her face goes red, and she looks at the ground. Mok Nangdo notices and asks with real concern whether she is alright. She tells him to get lost. He stammers that the version of himself she saw in the illusion was not the real him, and she rolls her eyes and declines to spend any further part of her life on this blockhead. Then something detonates outside. The 4 of us look at each other and run for it, and under the black curtain we find another group fighting, and it is Yeo Hayan's. Set against our scrapes and bruises, his people are almost all lying in their own blood, with only Yeo Hayan and 1 other man still on their feet. Mok Nangdo asks why they are here at all. Jang Bang-gyung snorts and says the reason is obvious, that they were following us, and that their tracking is better than she would have credited. Nobody enjoys being followed, and she had not expected them to fail this badly and get dragged into the illusion along with everyone else. Gal Hum-gil says we should be thanking them, since they diverted a good share of the anomaly's attention, and adds that the anomaly is writing one of them right now. Mok Nangdo asks what we do. Force it out, Gal Hum-gil says, because leading it in there makes everything worse, and he lights a stick of waking incense and throws it down near Yeo Hayon. Both men stumble in their forms. A black shadow rises out of the top of Yeo Hayon's head with crimson eyes that sweep the yard, cold and hunting, and everyone who meets that gaze starts hearing things that are not there, while shapes begin to build at the edges of sight, and the world loses its footing. My arrow goes through its forehead and drags it clear of Yeo Hayon's body. He shudders once and goes down, his chi and blood gutted, his spiritual power damaged. The thing shrieks and keeps shrieking, and I put shaft after shaft into it and pin it flat to the ground. Out of its illusion, its physical form is remarkably weak, with none of the untouchable speed it had before. My guess is that it never had speed. Inside this ghost realm, it moves by jumping from node to node, which is why an organ refining cultivator cannot outrun something that does not actually run. Gal Hum-gil and the other 2 flash to the front of it and put 3 blades into it with their chi and blood burning, and the ghost shadow shudders and comes apart into dark smoke. The 4 of us stand looking down at Yeo Ha-hayon and his people, 2 dead, 2 badly hurt. One of Jo Jung-won's arms has been taken off, and for reasons nobody can explain, the severed limb has been ground into pulp, so there is nothing to reattach. Yeo Ha-hayon's essence blood is spent and his mind damaged, which is worse. They came here to repair the wreckage of a failed breakthrough, and are leaving further from the spirit refining realm than they arrived. No amount of origin chi later is likely to give it back. Gao Hongil shakes his head slightly and asks why they had to go through all this. They worked together several times over the years, and seeing the state of the man is enough to pull a sigh out of him. Zhou Zhongwan looks up with his face working and says that if Gao Hongil had agreed to cooperate, none of this would have happened to them. Nok Nongdo curses him out loud and asks whether he has lost his mind, and whether he stalked us only to stand there now claiming the right of it. He wonders aloud whether the ghost broke something in his head on the way out. Zhou Zhongwan shouts back that he wants to become stronger, and asks what is wrong with that. Zhang Bangyong says there is nothing wrong with wanting to be strong, and everything wrong with his method, and then she says to forget it, that there is no reasoning here, and wishes them luck. When they first worked together, the read on Zhou Zhongwan was that his heart nature was poor. The truth turns out to be that the man lives entirely inside his own world. Yeo Haiyon lifts his head and begs Gao Hongil to help them out of the ghost realm, saying that if they go back like this, they will probably die. The spirit refining realm is finished for him. He would still rather live out an idle life in organ refining than not live at all. Gao Hongil hesitates and then shakes his head. They stalked us with bad intentions, and letting that go unanswered is already generous, and now we are being asked to carry them home. Repay an injury with kindness, and there is nothing left to repay kindness with. Their faces change. They want to argue and cannot find the ground to argue from, since they followed us to take what we had, and a colder man would have left them lying there. Then Zhou Zhongwan breaks and wails outright, tears and snot and all, saying he was wrong, begging to be taken back, saying he does not want to die yet. Something is not right. I say it out loud with my eyes moving over the walls and the rooftops. Very little time has passed since the ghost shadow was destroyed. We had all intended to leave the moment the black curtain lifted, and it has not lifted. The others catch it too. The curtain came with the ghost shadow, and with the ghost shadow dead, it should have gone. A voice remarks that killing an illusionary ghost is not bad, and a vortex opens where no vortex was, and swallows the lot of us. We flicker in every direction and cannot get out of it. Inside a blink, the 6 of us are gone from the courtyard and 2 corpses are left lying in it. We hit the ground hard somewhere else. Blood comes up sweet in my throat and out of the corner of my mouth. From my knees, I can see this is not the courtyard and not anywhere I have seen. The 6 of us get up and stand back to back. A teleportation that direct is not something any of us could resist. And whoever did it has strength past what I can picture. A voice observes that among 4 in organ refining and 2 in marrow refining, the first to tear free of the illusionary realm was the one who had only just entered marrow refining. A figure is standing in front of us that was not standing there. He measures the residue of illusionary ghost aura on each of the 6, and then his eyes come to me and stay, interested. Gao Hongil grips his longsword and demands to know who he is. There is no crushing aura anywhere in the yard. He simply feels that he could be killed at any moment the man chose. Bang Xiong-hong glances at him. Gao Hongil takes the blow of a look, sprays blood into the air, and is slammed into the wall behind him. We rush to him. His face is bloodless, and his ribs are broken, and he has no idea how the attack reached him. Yo Haheon bows with a fawning smile and asks whether there is anything they can help with. And Zhou Zhongwan nods along, saying whatever the senior needs, they will certainly do their best. Bang Cheong-hong asks what help 2 men nearly killed by an illusionary ghost imagine they could provide. Their bodies stiffen where they stand, and in the next instant both are thrown into the wall and set into it, blood misting the air around them, unable to move. Mok Nong Jiang cries out, moves, throws sword light, and 3 steps later is crushed flat into the ground by a weight that comes from nowhere, and the whole floor of the place shakes and opens and cracks. I pull the longbow more than 10 times in a row and follow my own arrows in, and none of them travel a few yards before shattering along their length. I grunt and put the longsword forward instead, and it comes apart from the tip down, piece by piece, and then I cannot move an inch in any direction. Bang Cheong-hong says my foundation is the best of the 6, and that the sword strike was not bad either. Then he shakes his head slightly and says that unfortunately my cultivation is too weak, and that below the spirit refining realm we are all of us ants. Nobody in the room has any idea what he wants. He says that was a small punishment, intended to rid us of unnecessary thoughts, then chuckles and leans back into a reclining chair that was not behind him a moment ago. His eyes go over everyone and come back to me, and he says that of the 6 I am the only one with any relative value, and that if I want to live, or want them to live, I will do as he says. I ask what he wants me to do. The force holding me has let go, and I look at him with everything up on the walls, turning a hand over to make clouds and turning it back to make rain. His strength runs so far past ours that if he wanted us dead it would cost him a thought. He says it is simple. Find 3 items and for each one I bring back he releases 2 people. He taps the armrest and a streak of light shoots into my head, and by the time the idea of dodging has formed the light is already inside. My face must show what I think of that. I have no power to resist any part of this. Closing my eyes, I look at what has been put into my mind, and it is 3 bronze beads, two small and one large, cut over with intricate patterning. He tells me to bring each one back as I find it, and says that if I do well, they live. And he can pass divine techniques and secret techniques on to me. And then he chuckles and adds that he even has ways to put me into the spirit refining realm in a short time. I ask heavily how he can guarantee he will let us go once the items are found. Divine techniques and secret techniques are something a man listens to and walks away from. Going by the last few minutes, finishing the errand perfectly still leaves our survival an open question. He laughs out loud and says it is a good question, and he looks straight into my eyes and tells me I am welcome to gamble on whether he releases them at the end, or to decline the gamble and die where I stand. My teeth come together. I am meat on a board and he does not think it is worth the effort to pretend otherwise. Then he says that I should not try disobeying his orders, or he will make me wish I were dead. And he taps the armrest again, and the pain that goes off in my head is that same lodged energy churning in my brain as though it means to split it open. He tells me sternly that if the first bronze bead is not in his hand within an hour, I will suffer worse than dying, and one person here will die. I say I will be back. Standing up with my head in both hands, I look over at Yeo Hyon and Jo Jung-won and give them a small nod, and then a force picks me up and puts me somewhere else. The two of them are baffled by the nod for about a second and a half. Then Bang Cheong-hong's gaze turns toward them and their eyes go very wide. They try to explain and find their mouths sealed, and they cannot force out a word between them, and they come close to weeping from the effort. I would apologize, except that I would not. I come out standing in the original courtyard, and when I cast around I cannot sense anything of where we were taken. Bang Cheong-hong's voice arrives in my ear telling me he is watching, that I should not make useless moves, and that as for the seniors of my sect, he has sealed the ghost realm, and they cannot come in. I do not answer him. I find the direction of the bronze bead in my head, and go, carefully, at speed. The faint sense of being watched flickers behind me, until I am several hundred yards from the courtyard, and then it is gone. The question is whether he can no longer watch me, or whether I can no longer feel him watching. I slow, think, run on another few dozen yards, and stop. Circulating my spiritual power, I feel out the thing lodged in my mind, and compared to how it churned a few minutes ago, it has settled down. Master told me once that although a man in the spirit refining realm has strong spiritual power, it covers at most a few dozen yards around him, and past that the consumption becomes impossible to sustain. I put that beside what Bang Cheong-hong just showed me. He is in the spirit refining realm beyond any doubt. Whether he has gone past it is not a thing I can judge from one look. But he wants 3 bronze beads, plainly knows where they are, and is sending a marrow refining stranger to fetch them instead of walking out and picking them up himself. The likeliest reading is that he cannot leave that place. Either the place is a chain on him, or there is something badly wrong with the man. And there was that faint quality of unreality about him. Nothing like a body made of flesh and blood. Going back over everything I saw, pieces of it start to line up. He said the ghost realm is sealed. I should go and see that for myself. First, though, there is the small matter of the thing sitting in my head. I feel it turning over in there, and my brow comes down. Because whatever else it is a bomb with someone else's hand on it, and it can kill me at any hour he chooses. Outside the ghost realm, at the camp, Elder Son John watches the entrance shiver. His brow comes down, and once an entrance like this one has been opened, a ghost king finds it very hard to shut again from the inside, because the entrance was locked long ago by a formation tool. And forcing it closed means spending the power of the nodes. The Wanjin sword sect disciples are in there clearing nodes at this moment, so what the Ghost King is doing amounts to drinking poison against thirst. At worst, the entrance can be forced back open in 3 hours. Someone asks him, worried, whether the ghost realm means to kill the disciples trapped inside. He tells them to have it open within 2 hours, and then he sighs, because the fault sits with him. He left to handle other business and came back to find this. And under ordinary circumstances, he would have stayed inside the whole time precisely so that nothing like it could happen. Inside the ghost realm, I try spiritual power, then the jade pendant, then the tranquility source art. None of it shifts the thing in my head by a hair. Every time I so much as prod it, my skull feels ready to come apart at the seams. What in the world is this thing? I get my breath back and start circulating the dragon suppressing image, because the most mysterious technique I own is the only card I have not turned over. As it runs, the flesh through my whole body seems to wake up. Skin first, then the organs, and then it reaches all the way up into my mind. The foreign energy shivers, and then, bit by bit, it begins to be dragged off its perch. It is working. I throw everything I have into the circulation, and as the minutes go by, 90% of the energy is pulled down out of my mind and into my body. Then the dragon suppressing image stops being gentle, and it surges, shreds the energy outright, and digests it into flesh and blood. I open my eyes and let out a breath of stale air, because I did not expect it to be that domineering. body suppression, total control over everything inside the body, and that was not a boast. It is still only at the entry level, and it has already shown me a side of itself, with no equal. The energy can be cleared whenever I choose. Senior brother Gal and the others are still over there. I think about it and decide to check the entrance first, so I flicker across the city, deliberately swinging several hundred yards wide of that courtyard before I come back to the gate. The entrance really is gone. There should be an opening there and there is nothing, and I stand looking at the empty air with the argument going on behind my face. The safe play is to plant myself here and wait for the sect to break in, but going by Bang Chung-hong's tone, the sect will not manage it inside an hour. That means I would be fine standing here, and Gal Hong-gyul and the others would be dead. Let us go see what those 3 copper beads are actually for. I am not going back to Bang Chung-hong's side. That much is settled, since with my frame I could not survive one of the man's fingers. The beads are another matter, and something he wants that badly may have possibilities in it that he has not accounted for. I start toward the first one carefully. The whole ghost realm feels quieter than it did, and I think at first that I am imagining it. Bringing the jade pendant up tells me I am not. In my perception, the black lines that were restless a few hours ago have all gone still, the way a room goes still before something happens in it. It could not be connected to that man, could it? Bang Cheong-hong is the obvious answer, and it raises more questions than it settles. Why would someone with that cultivation be inside a ghost realm at all, and what are 3 copper beads to him? Did the realm go quiet because of something he did? Nobody here is going to answer any of it, so I keep moving and hunt the answers myself. I run the whole way at a crawl of caution, and finally reach the general area of the first bead, and there I stop, because I do not dare take another step. In my perception, the ground ahead is speckled with dozens of black spots. Every single one of them gives me a feeling no less dangerous than the illusionary ghost we killed. If I pushed forward a few paces, they would swarm and bury me. I probe the whole area in detail looking for a seam, and there is none. No gaps, no paths. Every route occupied. No blind spot anywhere. So how does a man get in? Standing there with my brow knotted, I look at the foreign energy still lodged in my mind, and something turns over in me, and I prod it with a thread of spiritual power. The air shivers and a small ripple opens in front of me. I hesitate, then step through it, and find a solitary stone tower standing there with the copper bead resting on its tip. That's simple. It surprises me, honestly, and if Bang Cheong-hong wanted this bead and could seize control of a man's body, a little caution should have gotten it for him. Why go to all this trouble? I go forward carefully, find nothing waiting, and inside a few steps I am at the top of the tower. Looking at the bead, I think for a moment, draw the dagger at my waist, and tap it gently, and nothing happens. Dagger against copper makes a small sound, and that is the whole of it. What is this thing for? I am still weighing whether to lever it off with the blade when I glance up and find the world entirely changed. A monk stands at the foot of the stone tower smiling up at me, and the ground around us is thick with green trees. Nothing at all like the dead quiet of the ghost realm. An illusion. The tranquility source art spins hard and not one leaf changes, and that puts alarm through me. The waking incense is still at my chest, so I light it, and the fragrance drifts out, and still nothing changes. The monk plucks a flower and tells me, pleasantly, that this place is an illusion and not entirely an illusion, that it lies within my heart and not entirely within my heart. I do not answer him, and the jade pendant's luster runs and feeds the tranquility source art, and it accomplishes nothing. So I pull out the red candle, because reservations are a luxury now, and I light it and put it out again. The monk watches me do it, smiling, and makes no move to stop me. That shakes me more than the illusion did. This ghost realm is too sinister by half. Running into Bang Cheong-hong was already outside anything I was prepared for, and at least with him, I could roughly name the methods he was using. Here I cannot even establish whether I am inside an illusion. If it is one, why can I not find a single edge of it? If it is not one, was I moved clean out of the ghost realm inside a heartbeat? I jump down off the tower and ask him warily where this is. The heart realm, he says. Then he adds, smiling, that where exactly the heart realm lies is not something I can understand yet, and that it does not matter, because it changes nothing about what I have to do next. I ask what I have to do. He tells me not to be like that, and points up at the copper bead, and asks whether that heart bead is not the very thing I came for. I ask, lo, whether I can simply take it. He says I can take it, and that leaving this place requires passing some trials, and the smile does not move. Nothing in the world appears capable of surprising this man. Then I ask whether I can simply walk out right now, and he shakes his head and says no, that having come here I must accept the trial. My brow comes down. Touching the heart bead put me in the game. In truth, it started the moment I laid eyes on the stone tower. I tell him that somebody sent me to collect 3 beads like this one, and I ask whether he knows the purpose. While I say it, I crouch and carve the 3 shapes out of my memory into the dirt with the dagger. He says, smiling, that the heart beads are formation tools, and that a man trapped by a heart formation can only break it by obtaining the tools. I ask whether a formation is not broken simply by moving one of its tools, since I know no formations myself, but I know that much. This is a heart formation, he answers, and it is not bound by form. Then I ask who the man trapped by it is, because an expert sealed inside a ghost realm has an origin I would very much like to hear. This poor monk does not know, he says. I ask whether the sealed one is human or ghost. Half human, half ghost. My eyes widen slightly. I had guessed at it already, and hearing it confirmed is still a jolt, because a thing that is half of each apparently exists in this world. I ask whether I could take control of the heart formation myself. If I could turn it on Bang Shong Hong, and every problem I have would fold up at once. That cannot be said, the monk answers, and it is the first question he has declined. I start to press him and he cuts across me, saying my time is up, and that if I do not proceed with the trial it counts as a failure, and I will be held in the heart realm forever. I take a breath and ask what the trial of the heart realm is. Not difficult, he says, and he will do something and I will follow it. If I succeed, then it is my turn to do something for him to copy. It goes back and forth until one side cannot answer, and that side has failed. My brow comes down again, because the difficulty of a game like that depends entirely on how badly the other man wants to be difficult. I ask, quietly, whether I may go first and have him copy me. He nods, and he does not insist on the order. So I tell the great master to watch closely, that I am about to perform a technique called creating something from nothing, and I ask him to look. I take a step back, show him both hands, and roll my sleeves up my forearms, so he can see there is nothing on them. Then my right hand closes on empty air and pulls out a roasted chicken. It is still warm as though it left an oven a minute ago. The calm goes out of the monk's face all at once. Light moves in his eyes fast, and the rest of him does not move at all. Looking at him, I get the distinct impression the man has crashed. Even now, I do not really understand what kind of existence this monk is, and a fragment of somebody's soul, and a lingering thought. The artifact spirit of the heartbeat itself. A full quarter of an hour goes by. I am seriously weighing whether to climb up and take the bead off the tower myself when he finally moves. Universe in the sleeve, he says, and calls my methods great and admits himself the lesser, and his face has gone back to exactly the calm it wore before. I ask quickly whether that means I have passed. He says I have, and that the heartbeat is mine now, and he makes a small beckoning motion with his right hand. The bead lifts off the stone tower, drifts to me, and I catch it without deciding to. Then he bows and says we shall meet again if fate allows, and the whole green world starts shaking hard enough to come apart. I get one more question in, asking whether destroying this bead would break the heart formation. The formation is only dispelled if all 3 heart beads are destroyed at the same time. His voice arrives from somewhere thin and far off, and when I look around again I am standing exactly where I started, and no tower, and no monk. Nothing to say any of it happened. Only the copper bead in my hand, which says all of it happened. The bead is already damaged. Looking down at it, I find the surface run through with cracks, and I think of Bang Shong Hong at once, because something going wrong with a heartbeat is very likely what gave the man room to make his moves. I feel out the black spots in the middle distance, retreat several dozen yards, stop inside a courtyard and study the thing properly. There is writing on it. I do not recognize a stroke of it, and yet as my fingers brush across each pattern, the meaning arrives in my chest anyway. Remarkable. The principles behind this formation artifact are far past anything my knowledge can hold, and the patterns share one trait with the dragon suppressing image, which is that a short while after I have read a thing, it is gone from me again. Does everything with real power behave this way? Anyone else standing here would be helpless. Reading and forgetting demands enormous comprehension ability and a heart nature stubborn enough to nail the meanings down by force. Fortunately, I have a panel. I wipe my hand over every pattern on the bead, and I could not tell anyone what I just looked at. When I have finished the whole surface, the panel changes and records an incomplete heart formation. Each bead should carry a piece of the control method, and there is no time to sit here mining it. Besides, that man can probably feel it when a heartbeat moves. I think it through and settle on a plan, and the plan requires a certain amount of nerve, because it means walking back to Bang Cheong Hong. Half an hour of careful running puts me in the courtyard, and the moment I arrive the dizziness takes me, and when my eyes open I am in that sealed cave again. Bang Cheong Hong sees the bead in my hand and laughs out loud, and with one beckon of his right hand it flies to him. He turns it over, unable to keep the pleasure off his face, and tells me I did not disappoint him. Otherwise, he says, all of these people and myself along with them would have had to die. Since one heartbeat has come back, he says he will keep his promise and let 2 of them leave. Gal Hongyo looks up at me and says, hard, to let them go first. Yo Ha-yan and the other man start shouting over each other to be let out, that they are injured, that they should go first, thrashing where they lie. Jang Bang Yang says, smiling, that senior brother Gal and junior brother Mok should go, and that she will stay here and keep me company. Mok Nongdu shouts that there is no need and that the senior brother and senior sister should go. Gal Hongil says he is the captain and they will listen to him. He says it flatly, and he looks at me with something close to pleading in his eyes, hoping I will honor it. A captain running first has never been a thing he was willing to be. I nod and point at Zhang Bongyang and Mok Nongdo. Bang Chung-hong laughs and, to my genuine surprise, keeps his word. He waves a hand and the two of them are gone from the floor. A smile breaks over Gal Hongil's face and he gives me a small nod. Then Bang Chung-hong tells me to hurry up and bring back the second bead and points one finger, and another streak of light flashes out and sinks into my dantian. My whole body locks. I frown at him and ask what the meaning of that is. Just strengthening his hold on me a little, he says, unbothered, and adds that once all the heart beads are returned, he will naturally let me leave safely. My brow stays down. I look back at Gal Hongyil once, and then I am gone from the cave and standing in the courtyard. And Zhang Bangyong and Mok Nongdo are standing in it too. She looks at me and says softly that I should have let senior brother Gal out. I tell them both to go and wait for me at the city gate, and that I will get senior brother Gal out. The two of them sigh, knowing there is nothing left to change, and they say what there is to say and go. I fix the direction of the second bead and start running, with a great many things turning over at once. Bang Qianghong's strength is terrifying, and it is not omnipotence. Standing in front of him, I was worried the whole time that he would notice how much of the energy in my head had gone missing. He did not. Through flesh and blood, he can sense that the energy is present, and the amount is beyond him. The part I do not understand is why he put a second strand into me at all. Several hundred yards on, I stop in an alley, feel out the new energy sitting at my dantian, and start the dragon suppressing image. The moment it moves, the foreign energy shivers, sensing something wrong, and it gathers itself to strike back and is swarmed before it can. 99 parts in 100 are torn away, and what is left is not worth counting. And as it goes down, images come up. My expression must move, because what I am seeing are fragments of Bang Qianghong's life. At 10, he came to martial arts by accident and showed enormous talent, and at 13, he joined a small sect and rose fast. By 16, he was in the organ refining realm, the youngest the sect had, and at 17, he went out looking for a technique that would carry him into spirit refining. At 20, he found a predecessor's secret manual in a cave, and at 24, he measured his apertures and broke through. At 25, he came home, put down every voice that spoke against him, and made himself sect leader. At 27, cruel and tyrannical by then, he fought a man of his own level, lost, and ran. At 30, he found the Wind Ghost realm. I open my eyes, and the memory stops there. What I wanted was the reason he ended up sealed, and all that remains in the fragments is Bang Cheonghong fighting a ghost. Why is there memory inside foreign energy at all? I turn it over and land on a possibility that changes my face. Possession, or more likely refinement, into a clone puppet. Only that would explain striking a piece of one's own memory into another man's body and letting it root there quietly until it is wanted. Set that beside the half-human, half-ghost thing he has become, and the clone puppet reading is the stronger one, because in Bang Cheonghong's eyes I am a man with a decent foundation. He has not seized me outright or searched my body yet, and the reason is almost certainly that he still wants me fetching heartbeats obediently, and does not want me spooked. My brow stays down. Bang Cheonghong has plainly killed a great many donkeys the moment the grinding was finished, and the way he is handling me is practiced and smooth, and entirely natural to him. Without the dragon suppressing image, I would have no options at all. With those energies in place, all he would need to do is set a clock, and an ordinary martial artist would find living worse than dying and come back on his own. Sometimes death is not the frightening thing. Not being able to die is. I run for the second bead and reach the area quickly, and it is the same as the first, ringed with a mass of black spots, the kind of ground where whoever charges in dies there. I prod the energy in my mind. A ripple opens. I step through, and there is the same stone tower with a heart bead sitting on it. This time I do not climb. I wait. Sure enough, the world changes over after a moment, and the monk is standing there smiling at me. "Benefactor," he says. Bowing, we meet again. My eyebrow twitches, and the same monk at the second bead, exactly as I suspected. I ask him straight out what the trial is this time. "Would the benefactor please demonstrate that method once more," he says, smiling, and this poor monk wishes to see it again. I blink at him. Is he that stubborn, and he intends to stand up from the exact spot where he fell? I cannot tell whether that is the awareness of a strong man or plain obstinacy, or a kind of arrogance. No problem at all. I have not got one reason in the world to refuse a request like that. I do not know whether the space grid of mine will keep growing as my cultivation in the martial Tao improves, but it clears the trial, so I take what I am given. "Great master," I say, "please look." My right hand closes forward and comes back holding an enormous braised pork rib. Light moves in the monk's eyes as he takes apart every detail of the motion, and no matter how many times he takes it apart, he cannot see where the rib came from. It resembles the universe in the sleeve he knows of, and it is also nothing like it. Great master, I say again because he looks about to crash a second time. Apologies for the wait, benefactor, he says. I have passed. He presses his palms together and the heartbeat floats down in front of me, and I catch it. I thank him, and he does not speak, only bows, and the space breaks apart, and I am standing on the outskirts again. I skirt the wandering black spots first and get myself somewhere safe before I look at what is in my hand. Like the first, this bead is covered in cracks, as though it would come apart if I closed my fist. I do not waste the time I have. A quarter of an hour of reading the patterns in the panel changes, and my knowledge of the formation is a great deal fuller than it was. Straight on to the third. Bang Chung Hung allotted an hour for each bead and the hour is not spent, so I have every reason to keep going. The larger reason is that I have become a little afraid to stand in front of him. He intends to refine me into a clone puppet once the work is finished, and that much is plain. If I go back now, he will very likely examine my body properly and put more energy into me to make the later handling easier. The first energy is nearly all digested, so an examination would expose me immediately. Better to get the third bead and see whether there is any way at all to turn this on him, because being led by the nose like this ends with me dead. I put the bead away and run, and this time the distance is short and I reach the area almost at once. At the camp outside the Ghost Realm, Sun Jian asks how much longer the entrance will take. The disciple working the seal wipes his forehead and says helplessly that he does not know what happened inside. He only knows that the seal has grown stronger, and that it feels as though the Ghost King means to fight to the death. Sun Jian asks how long, and the answer is 3 hours at the least. His brow goes down further, and he does not understand formations, so he is at the mercy of the disciples who do. Brute force would certainly work and would take longer still, because the Ghost Realm would spend everything it has resisting it. 3 hours is too long, and the disciples inside could be wiped out inside 3 hours. He says he will summon Elder Jin Jungkook from the sect, and tells them to keep working. Inside the Ghost Realm, Bang Chung Hung turns the heartbeat over in his hand while the control method inscribed on it runs through his mind. Below the spirit refining realm, learning to control a formation like this one is not strictly impossible, and it would take a very long time, so he is not troubled in the slightest by the thought of what I might do with it. Beyond the difficulty of the method, actually driving a heart formation demands extremely fine technique, which turns something nearly impossible into something that looks impossible from every angle. Then his hand pauses, because the second heartbeat seems to have moved. As the man sealed by it, he keeps a thread of perception of the heart formation. It is very weak, and he only has it at all because the formation is damaged. Were it intact, he could not have brought anyone here, and moving would be beyond him. By the rate the beads are decaying, and with his own constant hammering, the heart formation should dissipate inside 10 years at the outside. Now that there is a chance to make it burst early, he has no interest in waiting a decade. Everything is running where he wants it, and even my body has interested him a little. The cultivation is weak, but refined into a clone it might be pushed up into the spirit refining realm later. He is half human and half ghost now, and his cultivation is badly damaged because of the heart formation. If he can find a chance to devour the Ghost King of this realm, the injuries might heal, or improve past where they were. It was that Ghost King that made him what he is, and precisely because of it he holds a portion of authority over the Ghost Realm. He does not intend to meet the thing head-on when he gets out. By his arithmetic, the entrance will break in a few more hours, and when the Wanjin sword sect are busy fighting the Ghost King, he will strike from behind, with very good odds. For now, he only has to sit still, take back 3 beads, master the control method, and neither the Ghost King nor the sect will ever learn he existed. As for Mok Nangdo and the other one he released, he caught them again, and he promised to let them go, and he never promised not to take them back. The 2 of them are sealed somewhere else now. Elsewhere in the Ghost Realm, I stand in an alley 100 yards short of the 3rd bead, and I do not dare go forward. Every bead has anomalies circling it, and that much I know. Here, whether because the Ghost King has sensed something or for some other reason, the count is grotesque, and the other 2 sites had dozens. This one has hundreds, and the number is climbing while I watch. I prod the energy in my mind, and no ripple opens, which means I am too far out to meet the condition for entry. Feeling one of them drift my way, I pull back several dozen yards, giving it a wide berth. The energy Bang Chung Hung planted in me turns out to have a strong masking effect, and the anomalies slide past me without their attention catching. I worked that out days ago, but being ignored is not being invisible. If I sprint into that mass, every one of those gazes turns on me at once, and what is left of me afterward would not qualify as pieces. Great Master, I try quietly and then again, asking whether he is there. I hold the heartbeat out and call a few times and nothing answers. My brow comes down. I walk 2 turns of the alley and then I take a white candle out of my robe. The 3rd bead is not optional. All three of them are what it takes to learn the whole control method, and after being played this long by Bang Xiaonghong, I am not letting it go at that. I have seen the man's memories, and he plans and then he acts. He locked the entrance knowing perfectly well it could not stay locked, which means he has something else prepared for the sect elders when they come in. I might get myself out. Gal Hong Yul and the others would not. I am not letting him off this easily. I run more than 100 yards, set the white candle on a courtyard wall, come back to where I started, and light an arrow. There are a great many arrows in my space grid, and a good number of them are fire arrows. Knocked and drawn, I narrow my eyes, and the wall 100 yards out swims forward and comes clear. The arrow crosses the gap and goes through the candle's wick. The flame catches at once. As it jumps, every anomaly within several hundred yards goes silent, and an oppression settles over the whole district, and then all of them start flashing wildly toward the candle. Feeling that movement roll away from me, my scalp crawls, and I run for the third bead. 100 yards in a blink, ripples opening in front of me, and I step through. Seeing the stone tower ahead, I let out the breath I had been holding, because that was a risk and it went smoothly. Great Master, I call. The world changes over the moment I finish saying it, and the monk is in front of me again with his palms together. I bow and ask what the trial is this time. He still wants to see the technique, he says, and expects he still will not understand it. Then his brow creases slightly and he asks whether we might make a trade. I ask what trade. I teach him the technique. He teaches me a simple way to control this heart formation. My brow creases too, because I did not expect that, and anyone else would take it in a heartbeat. The control method is written on the beads and it is brutally hard to learn, and as things stand, the portion I have read has already left my head completely. Without the panel, I would agree on the spot. Because of the panel, I cannot agree at all, since the space grid cannot be shown to anyone and cannot be handed over. Great Master, I tell him, and I mean it. I would genuinely like to teach it, and this technique is something I was born with, and it cannot be taught. An innate divine ability, he says. He looks into my eyes, and he can feel I am not lying. And if I am not lying, the thing is more mysterious than he thought. Then it seems this opportunity is not mine, he says, shaking his head with some regret. And the trial, I ask, because a monk with this much autonomy has started to worry me. He laughs softly, as though he had already read the thought, and asks whether the benefactor would demonstrate that divine ability once more so a poor monk may broaden his horizons again. That takes me aback. Is the man being stubborn, or is he quietly doing me a favor? The bead is in poor condition, cracked all over, and on the present trend it will be gone in a few years. And perhaps he is simply handing it to me. Whatever the reason, I have no cause to refuse. Please watch closely, Great Master. My right hand goes out and comes back with a piece of dry food in it. He watches with total seriousness, and when he has finished watching, the doubt in his eyes has not shrunk at all, and it has grown. He has run through everything he knows, checked it again, and found it is not what he thought. The benefactor's divine ability is extraordinary, he says, and the bead is mine. He bows and the heart bead floats out in front of me, and the space begins to tremble. Great Master, I say quickly, please wait. He looks at me puzzled. Could he set me down somewhere further out, I ask, because there are a great many ghosts outside. I am genuinely afraid of appearing back in that alley and finding several hundred of them looking at me. Of course, he says. He smiles. The space shatters, and when I open my eyes, I am several hundred yards clear of the area. I let out a breath, and the monk is easy to deal with, and when he says he will help, he helps thoroughly. The hundreds of ghosts back there look thoroughly agitated, probably from the candle. Their wandering range has gone wide and their movement is far quicker than before. Nothing near me. I look at the third heartbeat and start on the control method at once. A quarter of an hour later, I have finished it, and the panel updates to a true art heart formation. Uninitiated. I think for a moment and put the other two beads into the space grid. Then the panel offers to simplify the heart formation for 5,001 of silver. The simplification runs, and it succeeds, and the heart formation becomes heart vibration. 5,001 is very nearly everything I have, and I still breathe easier for spending it, because this is only the control method and not the setting up or the making of the formation. If it had been the whole set, my savings would not have come close. I need to earn more money from here on, and the more sitting on that panel the better. Then I look at what the simplification actually gave me, and my brow creases, because the panel appears to have been lazy. It has swapped two characters and handed it back. Heart vibration. I look at the two words a moment, then make a fist and thump my own left chest with a fair amount of force. There is a dull sound, my chest tightens, and an insight into controlling the heart formation goes through my mind, and the proficiency ticks up. So that is how it is. I cannot help grinning, and I bring both hands up to start drumming on my chest in rhythm. Then my hands stop in mid-air, because the posture is fairly ridiculous, and the image of a gorilla has arrived in my head uninvited. I put my hands down and run my inner chi toward my heart instead. I am not in the organ refining realm yet, but making my own heart beat hard is no trouble at all. Since the heart has had no special tempering, I do not dare put much force behind it, so I work up through several levels of force, small to large. Insight after insight arrives, and I cannot keep the smile off my face, because it works. Against thumping with a fist, driving the pulse directly is far faster, and the insights start coming in a stream. Inside a quarter of an hour, the proficiency is crossed uninitiated, reached proficient, and is running hard at perfection. By my count, it has been close to an hour, which means Bang Cheong Hong will be about to start pushing. I take a breath and drive my heart rate up hard. This is where a martial artist's body shows itself, and an ordinary man's organs would have come apart under a pulse like this. All I get is a flushed face, and everything stays inside the limits I can hold. Then a voice arrives in my ear, asking what I am doing out here, why I have not come back, whether I have found the heartbeat. I look around, startled, and that vague sense of being watched has come back. I say I ran into a ghost and lost a long time to it, and have only just gotten clear. His voice turns cold and sinister and says he concealed my aura himself, so how could I possibly have met a ghost? And that I dare to lie to him. The energy in my mind surges, and there is too little of it left to do much, and it only rattles my spiritual power a little. So I scream for mercy, roll twice across the ground, and swear I did not lie. And I let my face go dead pale, and I put blood at the corner of my mouth. Tell the truth quickly, he says coldly, and his patience is limited. Or would I rather watch my fellow disciples die in front of me? I tell him the ghosts at the bead's location have multiplied past 100, and I cannot get close, and I describe the ground in detail. His voice goes quiet, and he has suspicions of his own now, about whether moving the beads has pulled the Ghost King's attention over. Give me another hour, I shout, and I will certainly bring the bead back. Half an hour, he says, and if I am not back in half an hour, I need not come back at all. He leaves it there, and the energy in my mind changes, going noticeably sharper. My brow creases, and he is not bluffing, and if the second bead is not in his hand, within half an hour he will simply strike me down. Does he have something else to lean on? Wondering about it changes nothing, so I run for the second bead's location, and stop once I am somewhere safe. I never stop grinding the control proficiency the whole way, and to reach perfection faster I have my heart running at its limit. 45 minutes go by quietly. 15 minutes left on his half hour. The panel shows the heart formation at perfection, 231 out of 30,000. Perfection is as far as this goes today. 15 more minutes would not carry it to great perfection if I burst my heart trying. Nothing is perfect, and this will have to do. I take the 2 heart beads out of the space grid. There is no first or second among the 3. Controlling the formation requires holding at least one, and if 2 men hold beads and both want the formation, it comes down to whose technique is finer. I pour inner chi and spiritual power into the bead in my hand. It is like walking into an ocean, and inside the bead is an enormous space, and my field of vision begins to climb and climb. Is this the ghost realm? From several hundred yards up I can see the whole of it. I had thought the giant city was the substance of this place. From up here I find that far behind the city there is a hillside, and on the hillside a grave, and on the grave a small tombstone. One distant glance and something foul comes rushing at me, and the heartbeat blocks it outright. Is the Ghost King inside that grave? I hesitate, then have the beads start taking the grave apart. Endless dark, nothing clear in it, and I can just make out an enormous space inside with a figure standing in it. It really is the Ghost King. As though it felt the intrusion, the figure turns slowly and looks back along the line of my sight. I pull my vision away and do not look again. Whether the bead can block that gaze is not a thing I intend to find out, knowing where the Ghost King sits. I have what I came for. Now his turn. My vision shifts across to the courtyard where Bang Cheong Hong is sealed. That seal was set by the heart formation in the first place, so compared to spying on a Ghost King, looking in here is nothing. Senior sister Jang and senior brother Mok have been taken again. I see the 2 of them at once and my brow comes down, and I had not misread the man at all. He will use anything to get where he is going. From the moment they landed in his hands, their fate was settled, barring some accident, because Bang Cheong Hong never intended to let anyone walk out. Whatever made him half human and half ghost has to be the Ghost King. That means he would rather not meet it, and since he would rather not, I am obliged to arrange a proper reunion. My spiritual power surges, and inside the courtyard, Jang Bang Young and the other 2 are lifted out and set down at the city gate. How audacious, Bang Cho Hum roars. And who is it? He is on his feet the instant I move, power sweeping out across everything around him, finding nothing. His brow comes down, and as he gathers to move again, he discovers that the space sealing him is shrinking fast and beginning to travel, hard, in a direction he did not choose. His face changes. Whatever he failed to understand a moment ago is now perfectly clear, and somebody is driving this heart formation. He looks at the bead in his hand and tries to answer with the fragment of control he holds, and it does nothing whatsoever because the technique moving against him is far finer than his own. Who, he says, and who exactly is it? Faces go through his mind by the dozen, and not one of them fits a man who could take a heart formation out from under him in silence and drive it with this much skill. He throws every scrap of power in his body into the formation at once, and the formation flickers and steadies. He does not stop, and he hammers it and keeps hammering. The heart formation is already damaged, and cannot take this for long. He went slowly before because he did not want to spend strength, since every measure of power he uses inside a heart formation is power he does not get back. But with someone else's hands on it, no amount of thrift is worth being steered like a cart. The 3 beads crack in unison, and the fractures on them start spreading. My face has gone grim because Bang Chong-hung is far stronger than I had allowed for. Only now that I am driving the formation do I understand what it is. Damaged as it is not something an ordinary martial artist could resist, and he has been sealed in it for years, and his assault is still deepening the damage. Worse damage means worse control, and the seal, which had been traveling fast, begins to slow. His eyes brighten and he feels the change and starts trying to tear free while he keeps striking. Rise. I take a breath. My hands go into seals and internal energy and spiritual power pour into the beads. There was selfishness in my plan, and beyond putting Bang Xiaohong down, I wanted to keep the formation. A set of formations this powerful, even broken, would handle an ordinary organ refining martial artist comfortably if used well, and might cost a careless spirit refining expert something. His resistance has taken that off the table entirely. And inside this ghost realm, I cannot keep the heart formation, avoid the man, and walk out alive all at once. There are not many perfect things in the world. Getting one of the 3 is already luck. As I put everything into the control, his spiritual power is thrown off the beads, and the seal picks up speed again and runs for the grave on the back mountain. The cracks multiply until the beads look ready to burst. Open, Bang Qiaozhong roars, and power detonates out of him, and a vast ripple rolls out and slams the seal, and shakes it hard. The beads shudder in my hands. Feeling their state, my scalp goes numb, because the damage is far past what I estimated. I do not hesitate, and every scrap of internal energy and spiritual power I own goes into them. The seal holds, and the beads are ruined. His brow knots as he gathers to strike again, and his spiritual power reaching out past the seal finds itself looking at a grave. His expression changes, and before he can do anything at all, the seal goes headfirst into it. Inside the tomb, the ghostly shadow watches a thing come in, and before it can work out what is happening, the seal unravels and leaves a man standing there. The crimson eyes flare, and it remembers this human, and it did not expect to meet him again after so many years. Bang Xianghong closes his fists and looks at the Ghost King with a fury that could reach the sky. Who was it? For all his careful arithmetic, for all his certainty that he had accounted for everything, he is standing in front of the Ghost King. Old grudges and new ones were supposed to be settled slowly in his own time. They are being settled now, face to face, and the Bang Xiaohong of today does not have the strength to settle anything. Several miles off, I am pale and swaying on my feet, looking at the fragments in my palm with my face full of regret. Breaking into the Ghost King's tomb spent the last of the heart formation's power, and left me this. After some thought, I bring the cabin out of the space grid and put the fragments inside. Broken or not, they are likely still worth something, and they might be forged into something else one day. Then an enormous explosion goes off in the depths of the ghost realm. The whole realm heaves, and I watch a huge crack open across the sky. The ghost realm repairs it almost at once, and even so I can feel the change, because the bone-deep chill that has soaked this place since we entered has thinned. They have started. A smile gets away from me, and then I feel the anomalies in the distance getting agitated, so I stop enjoying it and run for the city gate. Senior Brother Jin. Somebody calls. Over here. The whole way in I pass fellow disciples heading the same direction. And when I arrive, Gal Hongyeol and the other 2 are waving at me hard. Zhang Bangyang's face is all delight at the sight of me, and she asks whether I know what happened. Mok Nongdo says I have no idea how wicked that thief was, letting them go one moment and taking them back the next, and there is still fear sitting under it. The moment they were recaptured, he had counted himself dead, since there is no hope to be had from a man whose word means nothing.